Welcome to the Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Amish Earther, Naughty Thumbnails, Mitch Kennedy, Original D-Rose, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, JMels24, Unimento, M, Iron26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Golden McKinnon, Retro Bill, More Books, Canna Bear, Fibre Oats, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Mel B Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, Tina Baker, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. And now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show. Hello.
Hey, Nathan.
Hello, how's it going?
Oh, that's good.
Jolly good.
We got a new, yeah.
Well, I haven't got anybody to keep you amused in my G Plus server yet, so I don't know what to say. I suppose I'll keep you talking and then get a coffee when someone's joined the G Plus panel.
Nathan, you're going to address the stationary Earth claims? Is it just going to keep ignoring it?
Oh, he wants to get a coffee. He wants Shitter Chatters to get a coffee.
Hold on. First thing I
Then
learned
he'll
a
address
contradiction in terms. Man, end one day and start the same following. Sorry, stationary Earth claim? No.
Yep.
That's not a
Claim
claim.
to come with the default position.
My bad. I've only been into the conversation for 30 seconds. No. You don't claim positively non-existence of anything. Yeah, it's like saying, do you stand by your proof of the non-existence of unicorns? No such proof can be offered. You can't offer proof for non-existence. Do you understand?
Yeah, but you do the exact same thing when you say it's stationary.
Wait, what's my quote?
I don't know, mate. I don't listen to every word
You just said you say it's stationary. Sorry, don't say you don't know when you've just told me that I say something. I'll just level with you straight away. We're going to get off on a really bad foot if you tell me things that I've said and then don't quote what I've said. Yeah, don't do that.
All right, I'll write
Stop.
it. I'll write
Finish.
it down.
I haven't finished. Let's not start off on a bad foot. Yeah. I won't claim you've said something. What I'll do is I'll position either a ball claim. You can deny the ball claim if you're an anti-flat earther, things like that. But don't tell me what I've said unless I've said it. Then I'll defend it. Now, I'll try once more because you've asked me a specific question. Hopefully you'll acknowledge the response. You cannot back a claim of non-existence. That's not a claim.
One sec, I'll find it.
So are we clear? There's more to it.
I'm going to find it, mate, because you say it all the time.
Okay, you knock yourself out finding how you'll back a claim of non-existence. You go ahead with that, and good luck with that. Jolly good. There is a positive claim, and that's that Earth is moving. I don't make it. I'll listen to those claims, and we'll see how the people claiming it gets on. But that's not me. I'm not making any claim here. I had to go through this with Dell.
You claim it's stationary, Nathan?
Come again. I'm being told what I'm claiming again in the middle of my sentence. Off you go.
Well, it's one or the other, mate. You can't have it both ways.
I'm not having anything anyway.
saying-
I'm not making any claim. What am I having again? Non-existence. I'm not making a claim of non-existence and I don't have to defend one. What I was going to go on to say was there is a positive claim and that Earth is moving is that positive claim. I don't have to defend anything because I'm not making any claim I'm certainly not making a claim of non-existent movement that I have to defend. I don't. But the problem for a globe believer is that they need me to make a claim so they can stack it up in false dichotomy with their claim. That's how this argument likes to get fought. I stamp that out immediately by pointing out contradictions in terms, like me having an affirmation of a non-positive claim. That is a claim of non-existence of something, in this case movement, which you do have a positive claim for if you are a globe believer. I'll listen to your claim and we'll see how you get on if you are said globe believer. I won't be defending anything I don't need to. That's 3 times I've explained it. I'm not going to explain it a 4th. I'm going to get a coffee.
Okay. Nathan knows that you're from Dell, right?
Not from anywhere, mate.
It doesn't matter, RJ. You need to be more specific, bro. I mean, come on, bro.
I spoke about this entire topic about 12 months ago to you, and you didn't even have a clue what it was back then.
Yeah, but RJ, it's a new day. RJ,
Stationary. Your default position is you're saying there's no movement, but then if you drop your phone, you're claiming that it's the phone that moves towards the Earth. That's a claim of acceleration. Now you can stand there and say, "Oh, I don't claim acceleration." It's your default position. You have to.
RJ, it's a new day. Let's go over this very calmly and explain your situation. Don't make it, just go with what you have. You don't need to turn it into anything else. I mentioned it to you earlier with, communication skills.
My position would be we observe it stationary, and if you have a positive claim...
Observation isn't enough. Observation isn't enough. You observe parallel lines convergent. Does that mean you actually do?
Let me finish. My position would be I observe stationary, and if you got a positive claim to otherwise, then you would have to support that.
Yeah, but observation's not enough, mate. You need a demonstration of practicality. Just looking at something isn't enough.
Right, have I come back into him trying to wrangle this into the false dichotomy I just took apart? Shocking. Yeah, you need to position this against a claim we make.
You haven't took anything apart.
You keep telling us we've got to prove it. What are we proving again? The non-existent movement you need to claim. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Every time I sit back down, I get interrupted, and I reiterate that I'm not going to defend a claim you must have me make. No.
So you've got nothing. I thought
for the non-existence. No, I don't need anything. It's non-existent. The movement that you claim, I've got nothing for the movement you claim. What the non-movement that you're claiming, I'm not claiming that. It's non-movement, non-existent, not a claim. Is that the 4th time? I tell you what, son, RJC. My friend, I'm going to try and reasonably communicate with you. You can choose to talk through everything I say or not. And if you don't acknowledge the things I've said to you, I'll just kick you out. So, yeah, that's what's going to happen. I'm not going to tolerate this. I'm not going to start the day like this. Now, I've explained to you 4 times
Keep running, Nathan. Keep running.
Why your position of the false dichotomy required to argue that Earth moves against a claim that is non-positive that we don't make. That won't fly because we don't tolerate a false dichotomy for a non-positive claim. We just accept your positioning that it does move with your claim that we can assess based on your positive assertion. That is now the 5th time. I would ask, given the amount of times I've had to go through it, that you at least acknowledge that once, and if you can't, I will deem you unreasonable and remove you very calmly. Please acknowledge that which I've explained 5 times. Please.
Your channel's dying, Nathan. Everyone's seeing you for what you actually are, mate. Everyone's seeing it. People here listening are seeing it. They're all seeing it, mate. You can't run forever.
And that was the end of his time in this conversation. Goodbye. I'm not going to tolerate this. Yeah, Bev might have managed it once. I managed to reassess what went on yesterday. Nope. I've put a very reasonable position to him, in rebuttal to him demanding from the off we have a false dichotomy argument, with a non-positive claim being backed by me. No. 6th time I'm explaining it now to the audience. False dichotomy with a non-positive claim is not the position I'm going to argue. And after 5 renditions to the guest, being told that people can see me for what I am is not a rebuttal. It's not a response or an acknowledgement of my very reasonable position that I did not shout at him. I just put to him as a reasonable rebuttal. Now he's deemed unreasonable. So, moving forward, unreasonable people like him will just be immediately removed after, I say immediately, will be removed immediately after the position has been put to them multiple times and they simply cannot accept it. Because at that point, they are unreasonable. I'm going to just have them rumpus me and tell me that I'm getting exposed when we're arguing a specific point in debate about juxtaposition of false dichotomy. That's not me getting exposed. That's nonsense. Yeah? Now, we're trying to be reasonable, and I'm not going to be forced to be the unreasonable guy by an unreasonable opponent. I'm just going to remove you. Now, if people say, oh, you just remove people the moment they what? Ad hom me and ignore my 5 renditions. Yes, I did. Yes, that's right. Don't like that? All right, well, I'm sure lots of people you appeal to about how unreasonable it is to completely eject somebody who's ignored a rebuttal 5 times is. I don't care. Hopefully you guys can chat amongst yourselves while I disappear.
Yeah, you're good.
Back in 3 minutes, tops.
Yep. All right, Steve, it's time to pipe up.
Man. It's so funny though, right? I mean, here the guy comes in all fired up, And then he acted like he was going to behave, and then they don't want to communicate. I don't understand it.
Good morning, Steve. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Rona, we're waiting for you, bro.
Righteous, Nate, everybody.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say, where's my good morning?
Yeah, well, of course, Righteous. Yeah,
Good.
buddy.
Good morning, Roto. I hope you're doing good.
Yeah. Great morning. Yeah, I like Nathan's new stance. Nathan, very, very, very good. It's impressive for 2024. These guys like RJ that just came in here this morning, it's an endless well. Endless, they'll just they'll come in, do it. Everybody knows it's the same song and dance. Doesn't go anywhere. Just contrariness, no matter what you say. It's not really getting down to the what is, though. But Nathan's keeping it tight. That's good.
Okay. Well,
What do you think, Righteous?
me?
Yeah, what do you think about the 2024 handling of Nathan?
You're gonna have to give me more detail than that. What?
Not
We
not
just started
catering.
2024. Oh, go on.
Yeah. Well, so far it is front foot forward, in my opinion. Well, what do you think? Do you think he was fair to RJ?
He put it up. He asked him a question. He just wanted to focus on the argument, and he didn't want to get the.
RJ was a typical.
Well,
Let's see, what language do I want to use? The typical guy that just doesn't listen.
Well, let's follow up with this. How long could Nathan have talked to RJ this morning?
well, hold on a second. Nathan did give him a couple of chances, right? And he did warn him a few times. So he had a few warnings, and then
Mhm.
at the end of it, he well,
Yeah.
he didn't address the question. He just kind of went, against Nathan, so to say. So
They
I
start
mean,
dancing like
if you get warned a few times and then you still go, then it's all right for Nathan to meet you and kick you out. I mean,
Depends who you are. Bev.
even if otherwise not, because it's Nathan's show, so ultimately we got to
Right.
respect Nathan at his show and in his place.
It depends on the person. If it's Bev got 5 hours out of us, didn't he? Yeah, that's because it's Bev. He runs a channel. People do follow Bev. Therefore, he gets much more leverage than some numpty, nobody, who's just come in to say, I'm going to expose you. We all know what you are. Sorry, I'm asking about the non sequitur between your argument in false dichotomy about a force that you're going to infer when you've got an Earth that's moving that you also beg the question of, and then demand that I justify non-movement. No. Like I say, 5 times is enough for that sort of numpty. Get lost. I'm not going to be wound up by you. Bev, it's worth it. Yeah, he's going to get the better of me and wind me up at some point because he's a wind-up merchant. Bev, that is. But he's like, I'm going to allow this guy to be a wind-up merchant. No.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Brian.
Who's a
Neil.
wind-up toy?
Some dude.
Oh, that wasn't Brian. That was Neil.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Neil, you sound different
Yeah.
still.
Good morning. These guys have caught, the same upload virus. Because
Whoa.
I was talking to someone like at 3 o'clock in the morning about what's it? Dang, I just had it on the tip of my tongue. Wow.
Coming through the computer, I'm telling you.
Hello, Discord. What's
There you go.
up? Hey,
Here we go.
hey, hi, Eli. Good morning.
Good
Shut up,
morning.
Neil.
So yes, he said it was a biconditional statement affirming the consequent.
A what?
What? I was just about to do something else, and I had a very complicated string of words from Eli. I was just about
That's
to
what
walk
I'm
away
saying.
again.
These
What
guys
was
are
that? Come
getting
again?
crazy. They're all picking up from that Bob's whatever we were talking about yesterday. He says a biconditional statement affirming the consequent.
I see. What you're suggesting is that Bob, in an attempt to discredit a modus tollens logical consistency, has redefined it as a biconditional affirming the consequent. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Well,
Oh, right.
some other random guy in the Discord chats. Yeah.
Yeah, that don't make sense.
So he's like, if it's only if the words only if it's January, then only if it's January 1st, then it's my birthday. It's my birthday, so it's January 1st.
No. Can an affirming the consequence
no.
does
That's
it have
modus
any
ponens.
condition?
Hold on, Neil. That's modus ponens, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the grass is healthy, it will be green. The grass is healthy, it is green. Yeah? If P then Q, P therefore Q. That's right. So that's a very, very basic form of logic that affirms that which is true to be true by demonstration. So if you're going to take the logical consistency of the Black Swan and recontextualize it as affirming the consequent, if P then Q, Q therefore P, it would say if the Earth's a ball, then non sequitur fallacy description of something that occurs always, followed by non sequitur description of something that occurs always to affirm that which you stated in the first principle of the P statement. That's an affirming the consequent. What QE has got is not an affirming the consequent. It's a logical consistency. It's modus tollens. Right?
Yep.
If P then Q,
Yep.
not Q, therefore not P. If the distance to the horizon as laid down in the Earth curve maths is a geometric horizon, it will be at a set distance, making it a geometric horizon, meaning you can measure it at the distance they say it is. It's not at the distance they say it is. Therefore, it's not geometric. It's not an Earth curve horizon. Well, you need an Earth curve horizon for it to be a ball. Therefore, Earth's not a sphere. Maybe because they don't like me strapping that onto the end. Who cares? It doesn't change the logical consistency argument, which is to say, if we have a geometrically measurable horizon, Earth curve, then it'll be where you say it will be. It isn't where you say it'll be. Therefore, it ain't an Earth curve. It is that simple. There's no way you can undo this logical consistency by just what's the word? Reassigning it as a fallacy. It's pathetic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the fact that we can do this now, because I was shouted down by Adam and QE, I think, yesterday when it was time to go through this with Bev. They're like, don't waste your pearls on him. Well, yeah, we've got an audience. And nevertheless, it's one of those things where understanding how they reposition a really solid argument that's been taking their heads off for about 4 years now into it's just a fallacy. It's like, all right. And you buy this, do you, Bev? Yeah. Okay. What's a fallacy? Long protracted silence.
So after 4 years, there was a bet that some people would get it at a certain time, and I said they'll never get it. So this is what they come up with? Really? After 4 years? A fallacy?
Yeah, calling it a fallacy is what they've got. No, it's just a fallacy. No, it's a logical consistency labelled from day one as modus tollens. No, it isn't. What's a fallacy? That's what we're doing.
They're doing the
We're
best
dealing with
they can.
such numpties. I mean, you got to laugh when you actually break down what they're trying to put through. It is frustrating when they're shouting it through you and you're trying to take it apart, or they're talking through you and rumpusing you with their example being repeated ad nausea through the top of your rebuttal. But ultimately, when it boils down to the 35 seconds of what it actually consists of, it's laughable, really, isn't it?
Yeah, but Bev is a snake. He comes in saying, "Oh, I think it's genius what you're doing," but underneath, he's got this thing that he wants to get out on your show. What a joke!
No, that's what, like, he came in here all congratulatory, but it was really sarcasm ultimately
Yeah,
as we saw the conversation play out.
correct. He's a snake.
It's like a
But
scene
he's
from
like, I like what you
Roadhouse.
guys are doing now. So yeah, like, let me just
Remember
get
that
this
scene?
part straight, you know. And it's, you know what, it's the same mistake he's been making since the Black Swan came out.
Since day one, you're right.
Well, the thing is, I
He's
think
still
at
trying
some
to. Go
level,
ahead, sorry.
I think at some level they recognize that, you know, modus tollens is when an affirming the consequent fails to affirm the consequent. But they're not understanding the logical form. Right? That is the logical form of it, but it doesn't take away from that it is a logical consistency. They're missing that, apparently. And Bev stated his purpose was to get audio clips of Nathan for what is it, Jamie's sea level?
Yeah,
He stated his
that's their
purpose.
intention.
What does he think of his audience?
No.
What
Don't,
could
hold
you
on.
think
Just
of
let me
his
address
audience?
that. He's here to get clips by declaration. No. Now, what he needs to do is hide behind a veil of motivation. That's what that actually is, just to get that clear. His agenda is why he's here. That's what he did. What he did is why he's here. What he says he's here for is to thinly veil his actual motivation. They're not obvious. I thought it was. That's why I never even addressed it. But I thought it was really obvious. If Adam was here, I'd be like, well, how do you know what their intentions are? Well, by what they do, by their actions. You know them by their fruit, right?
Yeah, but that
checks
elder
out.
bad guy said something about Jamie's sea level. So I think they were in to get clips too. You'll see, they'll come out with it.
No, they did at one stage. They did a whole little bit on it. Just got shut down real quick. Got turned around too. All right, you want to accuse me of some minor digression when annoyed with someone lying about me because I've ad hominem them when they've lied. Yeah, fair enough. I went and apologised to her. What of it? And then what he did was reassert outrageous claims that I beat my kids. Like, oh, I see. It's the hypocrisy and double standards of you attack women, but I'm going to attack your kids. That's what that elder bear did. Like, literally just that. The double standards are outrageous, but that's what they do, right? I didn't care because it's a non sequitur away from the actual argument in every single instance. But that's their motivation. No, it's a useful get out when they're pummeled. That's what it actually is.
It'd be hilarious if that was the video we reviewed. Leave a comment. Tell him Nathan Oakley sent you.
What video?
Jamie sea level.
But none of it's his. I'd be worried that I'd be getting copyright strikes. None of it's his material. What is Jamie Sea Level beyond a glorified editor? He's not producing anything, is he?
Yep.
Nope.
Sure.
Right. So what does he do? Takes what? Family Guy and other cartoons and clips from people who've actually put the work in and produced material for him to use. Yeah, they're the ones that have done all the work. So he's got an editing software. Yeah, every one of them with an iPad's got iMovie on it. Literally, every single Apple device has got an editing piece of software on it. Wowee. I mean, these sorts of people don't tend to serve the test of time when it comes to their longevity because it's garbage, reused stuff Recycled, that's what it is. Okay, well done for recycling. Yeah, you're good at editing. Maybe you can find someone who produces material that you can edit for. Because you ain't producing Family Guy, or this show, or Arwin's show. But you need those people. You're a parasite, Jamie Sea Level. Without those people, what have you got? You're a faceless potato with absolutely nothing to offer whatsoever. So you use other people because they are your muses, aren't they? Right? Yeah. Somebody with nothing takes things from others like a parasite.
I mean, it's flattering though, right? Like, it is kind of flattering. Jamie put, you know what I mean? He put that whole video together for the people that he feels mostly about.
You can look at it either way. You could say he's reaching out, because I deal with people who are on our side that are highly critical of this show. I've had several meetings recently with various different parties of people who want to offer up their critiques. I'll be more brutally honest. Want to air their criticisms of how the show runs. I've had a lot to take on board, I've got to be honest. Now, the easiest bits to take on board are the bits that are critical of me. So I'll try and get those out of the way first, because I can deal with them very easily. I'm not afraid of my own monsters, not afraid to admit when I'm wrong. I'm not afraid to, like with Rachel, go and apologise if I've done something wrong. No worries, I can do all that quickly. What I can't do is necessarily negotiate my way around other people. Arwin is one of them. You know, that's going to take a lot of work, unfortunately. The work has started, but how successful I am with Arwin, I don't know. That's just something I'll have to deal with when I deal with it. If you're in the chat, hi Arwin, if you're watching this on the after show. It's not something like I didn't discuss with him literally on a live show yesterday, right at the beginning of it, so he's not going to take offence to that. He knows what I'm talking about. But the same is true for everybody. You know, at the moment, that maybe that's something I should use on Arwin. That internalisation that I've done after criticism from others about myself. Yes, it's not the first time I've done it, but that has, you know, yielded positive results for me personally. And Arwin hasn't done that. He doesn't seem to have any introspection at the moment. I shouldn't really be talking about him. He's not here. I'll wait till I'm in front of him. I shouldn't really be airing my thoughts as I think them on a recorded show. Apologies, Arwin. That was a bit across the line. My bad. Anyway, that's another issue. My point is that these issues are being raised by people who are friendlies. Well, you could say Jamie Sea Level's not a friendly. I think Paul LVA was saying he's only pissed off because Arwin's banned you from his show as a moderator. Now, that's another issue, a moderation issue that maybe I'll have to bring it with Arwin. It's a more universal issue as opposed to an Arwin issue in that regard. Although Arwin's moderation is something I'll also have to talk about with Arwin. Oh, God, the list continues. Anyway, where was I? Jamie Sea Level could be perceived to be wanting to help. You know, you could say, oh, what he's actually doing is saying, look, I don't like these things. This is exactly what he is saying, in fact, in his editorial, right? What is he saying? Don't read between the lines. Just take at face value what he's saying. I don't like Arwin's attitude. Yeah, I don't like your attitude. That's about it, really, isn't it? I don't like him attacking kids. I don't like you attacking kids. Fair play. When Arwin did that, I was like, just apologise. You've done something wrong. Now, in the case of me, same thing applies. You know, I can point the fingers back at me. No worries. But beyond that, what
about when your kids are attacked? What about when the authorities come to your house because they made lies up about you?
Who cares?
That's okay?
No. We don't need two wrongs don't make a right, first and foremost. And secondly, that's easily. No. We're not talking about how other people attack me. We're talking about Arwin and myself in this specific example. I'm not going to justify it by going, look at what others do to me. That was discussed literally 10 minutes ago, Neil, when we were talking about the Bev discussion. You know, that was contextualized within that specific discussion. For this, no. You have to stand back and go, have I done something wrong? Yes, I have. And then isolate it from everything. Now, if I offer up my mitigation, which I initially done, it's a bit weaselly. I've gone, my justification, which it isn't, for doing this poor behaviour. That is dragging somebody's family behaviour and their life choice circumstances, whatever you want to call it, and just pointing them out. Not lying, just pointing out home truths that people might not like about themselves. But that's not nice. And it's certainly not a rebuttal when someone's misrepresented your argument and lied about what you haven't said, which is the case with Rachie. Now, do I then turn around and go, look what everyone else does to me? No, you have to stand back in isolation, have some introspection. Have I done something wrong or not? Yes, I have. Okay, got to admit to that. And seek forgiveness from Rachie. So I did. Got in touch with her and said, it was wrong to do that. Please forgive me. Very short, very succinct, to the point. No mitigation. I only did it because you lied about me. I've done that after the fact, don't get me wrong, because that is still the case. doesn't suddenly alter what she did to trigger me to do horrible things in response. And I'm not trying to mitigate for it by saying those things. But it doesn't change that after the fact, when she comes to my comments, which she does, I'll ask her why she's a liar, why she misrepresents what I don't say, only for it. Literally, I've got some screenshots of this. Her to do exactly that in the comments. Priceless. Thanks, by the way, Rachie. Perfect. That's how these people are, right? Liars be liars. That's how they are. Now, yeah, sometimes liars trigger you, and your behaviour's just as bad. Not justifiable because of their terrible behaviour. Be careful you don't become the monster that you're dealing with. Now, sometimes you do. Yeah, it gets the better of you. You become that monster, and you just have to face up to that, or the monster grows. And the justifications and the mitigation you offer for the monster grow because of all the terrible monsters around you. And before you know it, you're just a monster. Right? Well, I don't want my friend Arwin to have that happen to him. So I suddenly switched to Arwin from me.
The change is hard, man. I mean, I think we're barely capable of it, if at all. But it's more like a marathon than a sprint, for sure. Because you're talking about your behaviors, like the way, I don't know, like Nathan, what you're describing, you're definitely thinking of like how to, I don't know, have a good philosophy, live and die well. You're willing to face the man in the mirror and, yes, man, eat crow, you know?
Going to make the change.
Yeah, good on you.
Na na na.
It's hard, man.
Na 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 na.
Oh no.
Make that change.
It's gonna feel real good. Come on.
Actually, just
Sing
change the
it,
subject slightly,
Discord.
or keep it on that topic. But I listened back to the whole of yesterday's show, right? Pain in the ass that was, because I was doing so many different things today. So I was plugging it into the car and reading the subtitles while my kid was doing her art class. Anyway, I did manage to get through a good chunk of most of the show yesterday to assess some of my own behaviour, basically. You know, that's the subject of this, right? Holding a mirror up to your own behaviour. So when I listened back, there was one criticism from a member. It was like, oh, I was about to share the show and I didn't because, you know, you're back to your old ways, or some sentiment to that effect. And it was that right at the beginning of my morning that triggered me to watch the entire thing, because I hadn't intended to do that. Like, it was quite a stressful show to make, and it was long, tiring. Anyway, nevertheless, I still spent basically all morning whilst doing other stuff, listening all the way through and going, at any point was I unreasonable? Now, after listening to it back, I can go, well, no, it's pretty clear what's going on every time Adam, me, Neil, QE, anybody starts making a position that's going to challenge them. They both, Elderbear and Bev, start interjecting immediately before the challenge can come their way for them to have to answer. And it happened 50, 60, maybe even 70 times. And it was really obvious to the audience that that was occurring. Don't get me wrong, I, in my mind, think it isn't. Therefore, I point it out multiple times, which does also slow the conversation down. That is something I had to look at and go, it is really obvious that is the case here. I don't have to actually point that out. It's not really needed. It just slows things down even more. But there we go. You know, it's my critique of myself in a different manner. But I don't think I was unreasonable or overly belligerent, overly sweary. Or maybe towards the end of the fifth hour, I might have been a bit. But you know what I mean? I wasn't badly behaved, I don't think, in my own assessment. It might have been an odd thing here or there, but generally speaking, I thought it was pretty reasonable. Now, just by comparison, I went back to the last comment I got on a video that was old. It happened to be from a year ago. And it was stupid shit flat earthers say on Flat Earth Debate Part 1. There's never been a Part 2, but nevertheless. And it was about mudflood buildings. And I went and thought, well, I'll compare. Just let's see what that's like. It was about a year old, maybe a little bit longer. And I just listened back to that in full to see how it compared to yesterday's show. And the difference was night and day. Now, bearing in mind, obviously, I've looked in the mirror in the interim year, and more recently had people say, you know, this is what you've seemed to have changed, but these are things you still do that make your show unshareable for me as a Christian or as whatever. You know, those things are starkly different going back a year, or even maybe sooner. I don't know. I only went back to that video. But you listen, and me absolutely losing my crap with somebody who's just perfectly reasonably stated as talking total nonsense about buildings coming out of rocks and stuff, and melted concrete flowing through buildings and all this sort of stuff. Well, the attitude towards him, rather than what could have been quite humorous, is me getting really annoyed with him. And there wasn't any need, and I can easily say that now with self-assessment. So the point being that with a bit of reflection, I do think it has a positive bearing on the show. Or has had, past tense. Hope you all agree.
Absolutely. Yeah, like the cream, you got to rise to the top.
It's hard though. When people are rumpusing you, most of all, they know what tactic works. They've been here 10 years too. They've seen what the rumpus can do, how effective that can be.
You identified it earlier when you said that he wanted to take the logical consistency of the modus tollens and claim it was a fallacy. When with Bev yesterday. It's all happening so quick, dude. He's just a liar. Liars be lying, right?
Yep. Anybody got a video we can cover today, rather than just covering or recovering Bev over and over? Scrolling my way back through Masterbeat to see if there's anything that people have stuck in there. Oh, thanks, Neil. That's fantastic input.
Yeah, I hit it by accident.
No, nobody got a video they want us to cover?
Nathan, what I said about them stating their purpose, that was well into the conversation when they got triggered and started talking about. I think it was. I seriously think they came in to try not only to erode support for a logical consistency, but erode support for you. And by behaving badly, they hope to get you to do the same. I thought that you didn't see that as the case.
Right, run that by me again. So you're saying that by intentionally behaving badly, they wanted to support me. That's the bit I got confused on that you just said.
No, not support you. It's erode support for you.
Oh, erode support.
By trying to trigger you. Yeah. Because they've heard the rumblings. They thought it was a perfect chance to go in and push you so that to maybe take away from that. It was thin. I thought it was thinly veiled.
John, you're making a lot of sense right now.
It is true because I told you he was on 24/7 at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was in chat with Emma, who backs Bev, and they were bringing up some videos that Jamie C. Level had put out about you and your behavior. So I agree with John. They came in for one reason and one reason only.
Oh, to elicit more of the same behaviour that they perceived to be bad based on the editorial from Jamie C. Level, correct?
Correct.
Asking John.
Yes. Yeah, and they knew that if they came in and were being rude and illogical jerks, that's why I got so mad at them, because like, you're doing this on purpose. It's disgusting.
Hello.
Did they hear a Shimon?
Shimon.
Okay, so in the pre-show we were discussing Man in the Mirror. We weren't discussing, but we were discussing self-assessment in general. And the general consensus of the discussion was that the motivation behind Bev and his joining of the show yesterday was to trigger me into behaving badly. Or at least that was John's sentiment in terms of his divining of their motivation based on what they had said partway through the discussion. Nevertheless, that's what we were discussing in the pre-show. Check it out if you're a member, or it'll come out on my second channel in about 3 or 4 days' time. If you're not a member, you don't have to pay for these absolutely riveting discussions we have while I'm doing the sound check and such like. Right, I haven't done housekeeping.
Nathan, have you ever
Go on.
you ever come across a topic called statement analysis?
Not as a topic that I can say I'm familiar with. No, why?
You'd be interested in it. You're already doing it, but it's like when you say you get, I don't know, accused of a crime, right? And you're cross-examined by the police. It's like what they would use to cross-examine you. It's an easy way to say it. You just
Okay,
analyze the statement,
I do know
analyze
the
what
term
people
now. You've
say.
said it. Yeah, so the behavioural panel will often start qualifying things, or one of the panel, there's 4 of them, will start discussing something in terms of, what was the term again?
Statement analysis.
In terms of their statement analysis of what's going on, but then they'll quickly stop themselves and say, well, actually, in this instance, what we're supposed to be analysing in this regard is their behaviour as opposed to their language. But they still do it. Most of what they do, in fact, is statement analysis, but they're the behavioural panel. So I'm vaguely familiar with what you're saying, and there are plenty of, is it Jamie Can't Swim, JCS channel, where they'll have various different analysts, including former detectives and such like, look over interviews where the criminal sat in front of the heavily trained interrogator, and they're building all their rapport, and then after the fact they're analysing how the what they called criminal what the criminal's saying and how they're saying it. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, there's a famous example of, I think it was King Solomon. There was a huge famine in the land. Just real quick, like there were 2 women, right? They ate one son. Like they decided they were going to eat each other's sons, and they killed the one boy and eat him. And then the other mom backs out the next day, and this case is brought before the king, and he's got to decide the matter. So he determines whose son it was, because the one mother referred to the dead son and the one mother referred to the living son, and it's pretty interesting.
It's called Solomon's wisdom. He threatened to cut the baby in half, and the real mother said no, it's her baby, and that's how he knew who the real mother was.
I'm guessing this is Old Testament, right?
Yeah,
correct.
My God, the Old Testament's brutal.
Brutally honest.
As is God. Vengeful.
Absolutely.
I hope I'm not offending Christians by that. That's just my immediate blurtings. Please don't take offence if you're a Christian. I don't know. That's just how it seems. Anyway, we've gone off on a major segue here. Why were we talking about this again? Statement analysis.
Statement analysis, yeah. Because you mentioned it. You mentioned, I don't know. It doesn't matter. I think we were about to do housekeeping.
I've often found this. I'll just back you up, just because the only thought I can follow along that track is the fact that it would be nice for somebody to assess some of these old shows in that regard. I know I'd come off very negatively, but I'd be more intrigued to hear what they say about our opponents as opposed to me. But nevertheless, it'd be intriguing to see, like you say, if you analyse how people behave in some of these discussions that we have, these debates that we go through, what the general perception from an analyst would be. I hope I assess it on the fly reasonably well, in terms of my judgment of why they're doing what they're doing. And often what I'm trying to disseminate to an audience about why they're doing what they're doing doesn't get through because they're trying to talk through it, because they don't want that to be heard by them or the audience. Anyway, are we going to forego housekeeping today? Because the discussion's rolling on quite nicely.
Dealer's choice.
Ask my panel. Do you guys want to do housekeeping? Refracted, Neil, Arwin?
I always believe housekeeping is essential.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge, that's a horizon formerly known as Earth curvature?
The horizon is not Earth curve. There is no evidence of the horizon being Earth curve.
It was debunked in 2020 with the logical consistency modus tollens argument we labelled the Black Swan.
That's if the horizon is a sphere with a radius of 3,959 miles, the node, that's P, right? Then no horizon can be greater than 1.2 times the observer's eye height in feet squared.
Not quite.
We do.
Almost. 99% correct. Just one. Not you started with the horizon. If the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, yeah, that's your P statement. Then your Q statement is every distance to horizon measurement. Yeah, because we're talking about the geometric horizon, Earth curve, can be no more than, and then you got the rest of it right, 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, but that's just their maths, right?
Yeah, so let's finish it. The correction. We do see beyond 1.2 miles at 1 foot. Therefore, the Earth is not a sphere with a radius of 3,959 miles.
Not exactly. Again, because I've corrected your Q statement, it's altered
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so if it's the specific bit that you're trying to peg is distance to horizon measurement. Yep. So their Earth curve maths, what is it? Well, they're asserting where the horizon of the Earth as a sphere will get in the way. That's distance to horizon. Where it blocks stuff, how much is hidden by it. That's what they're telling you with their Earth curve maths. What is their Earth curve maths? The distance to the horizon is 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That's their maths. So, if Earth's a sphere, your maths will be true. Your maths ain't true. Here's an example. Therefore, Earth's not a sphere. That is as simplistic as I can break it down. But it's specifically in regards to distance to horizon measurement. That's what the Black Swan is showing. They say, in their maths, 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. 1 foot observer height, 1.2 mile horizon. That's where it is in their maths. That's what Earth curve is for them. That's what they argue with their maths. Where is the horizon? Is it at 1.2 miles? It's beyond oil rigs at 10. Therefore, not measured at the distance claimed in the maths. Not Q. Therefore, not P. Earth not a sphere, radius 3959 miles.
All you've done was debunk the radius. Maybe it's bigger.
It's derived from well, we can get into that. Well, then that's good, Neil. Excellent. First opportunity of the day to get into you'll need a flat Earth for that with a nice juicy explanation of why. So what is the radial value and how is that measured with respect to Earth? Neil.
I'm sorry, you're talking to me? How is it
You're talking
measured?
to me? Yeah, I'm talking to you. Talking to you about where they measure radius, Neil. Where do they get their radius from?
Well, they get it from, geez, I'm drawing a blank.
You got it. Nobody help him. He's got it.
You got this, Neil. We're all behind you.
Yeah. I'm sick as a dog, so I'm trying to think. Where'd they get their radius from anyway?
Something in the sky, Neil.
There's a couple of different ways they can claim they derive their radial value. One is by the minimum elevation. Oh, well, okay, go on, Neil. You had enough opportunity, but go on, rumpus me. Well, I'll tell you.
Wasn't it Alberoni?
You could use that. Yeah, go. Yeah, perfect. Go ahead.
Didn't he measure it with elevation angles?
He first takes an elevation angle measurement off a flat Earth to get the height of the mountain. That's correct. So first he measures the flat Earth. That's right, Neil. Then he gives you the differential between surface level and eye level, both horizontal planes of reference, to infer a below surface level, that's the one he measured for the height, geometric horizon. That's correct. So what did he have to do to get the geometric radial value that he's inferring from his measurement? He had to measure a... Ruin it. Go on, ruin it, Neil.
You needed a flat Earth, right?
Yeah, that was literally what I was halfway through saying. Yes, he will need a flat... Let's ruin it a second time. Yes, he will be measuring a flat Earth to get his radius, Neil. The whole point.
And
so when they
elevation
say...
angle.
Okay, it's conclusion time. So when they respond, well, that just means you've got a bigger radius. Oh, okay. So the Earth curve inference of a 3959 mile radius in the Earth curve maths, which here is specifically being referenced, when we talk about distance to horizon measurements, as per your maths, 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, that's earthquake maths, is a different value, you say. I see, we've just debunked the value. Where did you get that value, and where will you get this future value? From a flat earth? You're gonna need a flat earth to measure it? You got the original one from a flat earth too? This sounds very much like a flat earth proof in all instances, doesn't it, Neil?
But they
Yes.
could never get it, though, because of terrestrial refraction that they then conjured up so that they couldn't get it anymore. But just like with Newtonian gravity, they still use it even though they're not supposed to by their own standards anymore.
But we debunked
It's kind
it.
of convoluted like that, isn't it?
Yeah, well, but either way, it doesn't matter about what the anti-flat earthers do with that information. We debunked it 1st of January 2020. It's 4 years old. Black Swan, Earth's not a sphere, radius 3959. There is no geometric horizon. It's been debunked.
But once they say refraction, ain't they done for a second time?
I was about to move this and reposition this in light of our 2024 position, Neil, but go ahead.
No, I was just asking. I thought once they say refraction, they hang themselves.
Once we say on the front foot that Earth's been measured flat by Al-Biruni, no, I don't have to mention what he was measuring. They can bring that up. It's their claim. But if I'm going to infer that Earth's being measured flat by everybody always in all instances, regardless of what they're claiming after the fact, I could use Al-Biruni as an example on the front foot. Yeah, we've known Earth's flat for years, right back, way back when, in the times of Al-Biruni measured Earth flat. Did you know that? That it was being measured by Al-Biruni? What's that you say? That name's familiar to you? Oh, really? Why is that? Oh, you say he's the man who gave you radius. That's an interesting story. You tell me all about it. And when you do, I'll point out how he absolutely, as I originally inferred and was right about, measured Earth flat, didn't he now? You see that flat Earth is measuring to get the height of the mountain? That's him measuring a flat Earth right there. Isn't it amazing how he's measuring a flat Earth with an elevation angle measurement exactly as we say he measured? And for you to say it's a sphere, he must measure it flat too. So we're all measuring it flat then. But you've got a bald belief after that fact, have you? That's nice. But we measure it flat. Jolly good.
That sphere is measured flat.
The sphere isn't measured flat. Earth is measured flat. Their inference of a sphere is a non sequitur they take from a flat Earth measurement and then have a belief in. Sphere isn't being measured ever. Flat Earth is, always. And I like to point that out on the front foot in all opportunities.
Man, the only analogy front foot analogy, because boxing. You know, the only it's a non sequitur. I just had a non sequitur. I don't like the front.
Go ahead. Don't worry too much.
Take time
Go on.
to get used to leading with the front foot of Earth is flat.
No, we are doing housekeeping, Neil. I mean, I've stopped it at the point that I feel it's worthy of repositioning. You just happen to have a point to strap on at the end about refraction. That doesn't make you wrong, and it doesn't mean that we're not going to end up having these discussions. We will. You know, it's always going to come back. Witzit's point was right when he's like, well, I'm going to be confronted by a fundy. I cannot oppose him in that regard when he had that as an objection, because he's right. And I've, up until now, and when I started putting this argument, had thought about it and qualified it by saying, if you want to get into the debate, that is to say, you don't just go about your day knowing that you've shown or had shown Earth to be measured flat as precisely it is, but you want to then go and convert people who still believe they're on a globe. You want to relinquish them of that belief. Then you need to spend hours and hours researching and learning here on Flat Earth Debate how that's done, with plenty of examples that are trimmed out into little videos, and hours of us discussing these subjects as we've come to recognise and understand them. Now, don't get me wrong, if that's far too much for you, don't get into the debate with people. But the fact that they're not capable, these people I'm hypothetically postulating, aren't capable of debating their fundy counterparts when they've realised it's measured flat, but don't have the skills to undo loads of logical fallacies that they get thrown when they're debating somebody that they really shouldn't be. I mean, yeah, they've come here and they know Earth's flat now, but not everybody wants to come to a subject on YouTube, find out the facts of the matter, Earth's measured flat, and then go into debates about it. Not everybody wants that. But we, as a starting point, should always be pointing out that fact, because that's our primary position. I'm a flat earther. What's my silver, I should say. What's my silver bullet? It's that Earth's measured flat for everyone, always. So that's what I'm going to lead with. What's that? You want me to defend a position of non-movement for your movement claim that you can't back up, and easier than it is to defend against me having a non-positive claim of non-movement that I've got to back in false dichotomy for you to argue against to prove your moving up claim that you can't prove, or to prove your spinning claim that you can't prove. Oh, sod that. What can I prove as a flat earther? I can prove it's measured that way. Has the globe got that, by the way? Has the globe got a globe measurement to prove we're globe-shaped? Definitely not.
No, Nathan. The globe does not have a measurement to prove we're globe-shaped.
No, they just take flat Earth measurements like we do. Let's point that out every opportunity. Earth is flat. That's all we got to say, because it is.
What was that?
I liked it. It was him. I go high-pitched when I'm imitating somebody else, and the lead to get somebody else to respond in a high-pitched voice like Bev did yesterday when he was cornered is to have them go, no, well, you know, like Bill did. That was perfect. Try and pay attention.
I actually thought it was you, Nathan. Good job, Bill.
No, it was perfect. It was Bill. I normally do that voice that Bill would have done to give me the response in the third party that I've got to play with a high-pitched voice. He did it. He just put the pitch in that I would have. Well done.
I like when you did that. I like when you did that to Witsit the other day. You said, "Oh, really?" When he was talking about you can't use the horizon.
Yeah, I cut that out. Have I published that yet? I'm pretty sure I did.
And as far as terrestrial refraction goes, terrestrial refraction is calculated using a flat plane as well. Andrew Thomas Young states it at the very beginning of his paper.
Does he? What does he say?
Really?
Right in the middle of his paper, I've taken chunks out. What did he say right at the beginning?
All of my calculations were based on a flat plane, but we know the Earth's not flat.
Oh, right. No way. Of course he did. It's usually 10th pointing that out. Hope you're out there, 10th. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, he does, doesn't he? Yeah, the calculations are done with respect to a flat plane. They have to be. A few people gave us examples when we were in the, I've forgotten the name of the server now, the other server we were in last week. They're like, yeah, that's what you get when you look at the rail network. Well, we're going to deal with it flat, but it's not. It's like, yeah, we need to focus on that. Why have they got this mitigation right in the footnote for the heading sometimes? Well, why? Well, because they've got to measure it flat. That's how it is. So they say, well, we've got a certain amount of curve, but on the basis that we're only dealing with this small of an area, so biggie, it's flatty, we're just going to ignore all curvature. But there is curvature. We're just disclaiming that we won't be dealing with it in this instance. We'll be dealing with it flat. But it is still definitely sphere-shaped. We acknowledge it here in our denotes. Now on to how we'll build it flat. You're like, okay, so build it flat. You will then, like we all do. Yeah, your mitigation's meaningless because the process you're actually undertaking is flat. The navigation that you're undertaking is flat. The mapping that you're undertaking is flat. The measurements off the Earth are flat. So, but it's also because it's sphere-shaped. Oh, we're just measuring it flat now, aren't we? That's how it is.
Well, that's the only way they can get the measurements that they're getting. Because if Earth wasn't flat, they wouldn't be getting these measurements.
Yeah. Like that scene in Casino. You only exist out here because of me. Well, that's what the position of the ball is. You could take those two characters and have Joe Pesci with a flat Earth head and Robert De Niro with a globe head. You only exist out here because of me. The antecedent consequent relationship for a globe is a flat Earth. You can't have a globe without a flat Earth.
I don't know if I like that, Nathan, because look what happens to Joe Pesci at the end of that. Oh, no. Put the flat Earth on De Niro and the globe on Pesci.
Yeah, but, you were there. You know what really happened. Right? That's not a fair comparison.
Neil wasn't there. We're talking about a fictional movie. He wasn't there just because he's Italian. That's racist.
I'm teasing. Yeah, I am racist. I sound racist. Anyway, it's like Roadhouse, right? When the guy's got the boot knife, right? And he goes to kick Patrick Swayze, and Patrick Swayze catches the boot knife and he says, "You're too stupid to have a good time," and he throws him out of the bar. Yeah, that's what happens when you tell them the Earth is measured flat.
Well, they throw a tantrum.
I get
They
kicked out of the
lose.
bar.
Okay then. I've never seen Roadhouse, so I don't follow the example.
Do yourself a favor, man. Watch Roadhouse. You're a child of the 80s, Nathan Oakley, 1983, and you haven't seen Roadhouse? That's
1983.
Look in the mirror.
Comes up on the
1980, my bad.
people do that. I don't know why.
No.
It doesn't-
Just watch
YouTube used to do
American
it.
Ninja. That's the right 80s movie.
YouTube used to do it.
I
So you
was
type in-
99%.
Hold on. You said 1983. Well, that YouTube used to do that too. I don't know why people take 1980 and add the 3 on the end. But in the auto-suggest, YouTube used to do that. You type in Nathan Oakley 1, and it would add, as an auto-suggest, 1983.
You want to know why?
Why?
Because that was the best year ever.
Okay. I was 3. Yeah, great year.
I was 18 and I had the world by the groinkies.
Oh, righty. Well, this is lovely. Good stuff.
This is just a red herring to take you away from Roadhouse. That's all this is.
Thank you, John. Somebody had to say it. That's hilarious.
My only reference to Roadhouse is
I'm
Peter
done
Griffin.
with this.
Peter Griffin also raved
I'm
about.
done with this show. Yeah, I'm done with this show. You've not seen Roadhouse. Goodbye.
Amen. I'm gone. I'm out of here.
He actually did drop. He was so disgusted. We do a bit more housekeeping because literally we haven't done it for a while.
Let's go.
Any evidence? Oh, he's come back. It was just for comedic effect. It worked. Where haven't we covered for a while? Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Well, what's that?
science?
What's science? The assertion of cause and effect reasoning based on a hypothesis after observing natural phenomena validated by systematic experimentation.
Would the
In that
logic
case,
of
no.
be if A then
Gravity is
B, not
strong
A,
force.
therefore not
Can you
B?
hear him? Can you hear Bill, Arwin?
Now I
Would the
can.
logic of such a thing? Would the logic of such a thing be if A then B, not A, therefore not B?
No. You've got a simultaneous statement that cannot universally be held true for both statements. So what no offense, what you're clumsily doing is trying to describe a hypothesis. Well, a hypothesis has 2 statements in it. The alternative hypothesis runs parallel in a scientific prediction, that's a hypothesis, with the null. So both statements are formed when you formulate a hypothesis. So you've already done step 1 at this stage. Obviously, you've seen something happen in nature. That's your observed phenomena. And you're trying to induce it. So you're trying to make it happen. So you go, what do I think will make it happen? So I think A will cause it to happen. Now, cause it to happen is going to be B. So I think A causes B. That's an alternative hypothesis. You also have a null alongside it. If A, not B. So when you read the full scientific prediction, you get 2 statements that can't both be true at the same time. You can't have A cause B and simultaneously not cause B. The point being that when you vary A, only one will be proven. This is what I had to put to Jaron when he denied the validity of proof offered in the scientific method. He denied that it could prove things. No, we don't, says Jaron. Yes, we do. It's all it can do. Upon formulation of a hypothesis, one or other statement can only be true because you can't have A cause B and A not cause B. It's a violation of the law of non-contradiction. You can't have them both be true. So when you vary A, only one or other of those 2 things will happen. Either A will cause B, you vary A, and the thing you are studying in nature is induced. It happens. Well, when that happens, The other statement, the null, is ruled out. But you have tick proven the alternative hypothesis. A caused B. Proven, tick, done. Validated by experiment. Just let me, I'm nearly done. One last statement. If you vary A and B does not happen, you rule out your alternative hypothesis and tick, prove your null. So no matter what happens at the end of an experiment, based on a scientific prediction, that's a hypothesis, you will prove one or other. It's the only outcome. Proof. I hope that's clear.
Oh, Nathan, for the slow kids in the back, can you just repeat what you just said? Nathan,
Yes.
can you repeat it?
Yeah, I can if you are being sincere. Are you?
I am being sincere.
Perfect.
I want to.
No problem. I'll repeat
Yes.
it. So it's not a logic that's formed like a logical consistency, aka modus tollens, for an example. Yeah? We're not doing that. We've got two statements that cannot both be held simultaneously true. Now, those statements are formed based on seeing something happen in nature. Something's going to occur. And you're going to go, ooh, I wonder why that happened. Maybe if I do X, I vary X, that will happen. So you've got two things. The thing that's going to happen because you hope to induce it, and the thing you're going to use to hopefully induce it. So an effect, B, and a cause, A. Cause being the thing that you can actually vary, you as the researcher, and the effect, the thing you saw in nature that you go, I wonder why that happens. So because we've got those two things, A and B, we can now move forward to a scientific prediction, otherwise known as a hypothesis. Now, this scientific prediction has two parts, an alternative and a null. The alternative part of the hypothesis is A will cause B. The thing I'm proposing to vary will induce the effect I studied and observed to occur in nature. A will cause B is an alternative hypothesis. Alongside it is the contrapositive. It won't cause B upon variation. A won't cause B. That's a null. Null means zero difference result. You vary A, nothing happens. You don't get the effect.
Or
Go on.
can be that second one also, or if he's making another effect.
If
The
it isn't
null.
the sure, I was going to put that in. I'm glad you have actually, because I was going to. Yeah, if let's say you vary, you're studying some gas that's coming out of the ground, for instance. 1 minute there's nothing happening, then you see this kind of green goop coming out and rising up, and you go, "Wow, what's that? I wonder why that happened." And you go, I think, as I just suggested, it's actually a gaseous release through the soil. So you go, okay, I'm going to say it's caused by gas for the sake of argument. So you're going to, by crude example, say that the variation of a certain gas will cause that effect to occur. Okay. Well, let's say you vary your gas and you don't get some green goop as I've just described. You get an explosion that looks nothing like it. Well, did A cause B? Well, the supposition in your hypothesis is nice and clear. Yeah? A, variation thereof, will cause the green goop that you're studying because that's B. Now, if you're saying a varied A and C happened, then it doesn't comport with your alternative. It comports with your null. A didn't cause B. Oh, well, it did cause C. So what? Your hypothesis was already set down. You're trying to induce the effect you're studying. So you're like, I wonder why that happened. Well, let's see if I can cause it. Oh, I caused something else. Okay, well, you were trying to figure out what caused the thing you saw in nature, not induce a new effect, because that isn't going to validate a hypothesis. So, in that instance, yeah, you're still validating your null, which is A didn't cause B, because B is the effect you first studied, not the new effect that you then superimpose on the hypothesis after the fact. Yeah, hope that answers your question.
To
think
the late.
we may be jumping the gun with science, though, because what is the natural phenomenon? And I hope to God you don't mention the word down in it, because that's only with respect to a flat plane.
In that instant, yeah. Go ahead.
Can I add something, Nathan? If you make like a 1 million nulls that will give you the data, that means this is not causing the stuff till I don't get the final result.
What you're saying is, if you constantly are trying to affirm that something will cause something else, and all that keeps happening upon experimentation is a constant affirmation that A doesn't cause B, therefore each time you do it, you don't induce the effect you're studying. You're still successful in each and every experiment, though. I don't know if you realise that. You've still proven the null each time. That is to say,
you're still proving,
yeah, so if you vary A and it doesn't cause B, you won't come back the following day and find that which you have varied that didn't cause the effect you were studying suddenly causes it. That will never, ever, ever happen. It can't. Again, it violates the law of non-contradiction. A can't both cause things to happen and not cause it. So if you prove it does not cause it, then it forevermore will not cause it, because it isn't the cause.
So either way, there's validation.
Proof, yeah. Proof that it doesn't cause it. I mean, that's far less useful.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't that. Is proof positive that it wasn't that? It's still proof positive of something, but it isn't what you were trying to achieve, which is what caused it. You're trying to find out what actually was the cause of the effect you were studying in nature. That's the hopeful outcome.
So that makes the claim that science doesn't prove things ridiculous.
It's all it does. All science does is prove things. If you formulate a hypothesis within the scientific method, the only outcome upon experimentation is proof. That's what it does. It's an empirical outcome.
I remember for years, my son would tell me way before Flat Earth debate, way before Flat Earth was even a thing, that science doesn't prove things, it disproves. So that's ridiculous as well.
Well, when I said rule out, you can take... that's half a truth, because it does disprove things. If I have A causing B as my alternative and A not causing B as my null, and I prove, in like the example we just had, that I didn't induce the effect, therefore I prove my null. But I also disprove my alternative. One will be disproven, one will be proven. You can't have it any other way. But you can take a half-truth and say, all science does is disprove things. No. All, if you want to call it that, failed. It's not. But all an experiment that failed to validate the cause was prove that didn't cause it. Well, that isn't only disproving things. That in itself is a stupid statement. Oh, so you proved that you only disprove things? It's just asinine. It's stupid. Anyway, on that subject, on that topic.
We got to prove existence.
Go on one more time.
We have to prove existence first before we can get into scientific method. So, what is the phenomenon that gravity is claimed to be?
Exactly. That's the methodology here. I was going to go on to that housekeeping question, but I'll keep on that vein instead. You follow the steps if you understand the method. Step 1 is observe a natural phenomena. So, in line with the question, any scientific evidence of gravity, what is your naturally observed phenomena? If it's conjured in a pseudo-force-based reality that's invented by Einstein, it's not going to be occurring in the natural world. If you say that gas goes down, go boom boom, because mass attracts mass, we'll show you that that is not the case based on laws of nature and how gas actually behaves. They don't have a natural phenomena, to answer your question, John.
No, but it's keeping us on a ball, with their belief.
Yeah, if you slide the scale. So in Einsteinian mathematics, you just slide the scale at 1 and say that when you're not doing anything, you're actually experiencing a force of 1g that's arbitrarily in place always. And then when you're floating around in an orbital motion derived from a flat plane, that's actually 0. Get it right. Moved up the scale to not doing nothing being 0, falling around in an orbital motion being 0. Go on, John.
You just said gas falls down. That's with respect to a flat plane. What's this have to do with
I love it. Oh, that's epic. That's a double header. So, what you're saying is, even in the assertion of gas go down, go boom, boom, which it does not. It's absurd. They need a flat plane to reference it because it's a vertical description with respect to a horizontal plane for the altitude for it to go down, which it doesn't. That's epic. That was brilliant. Gas go down, go boom, boom. You need a flat plane for that. That's great.
Alan's been saying this for days. Where have you been, Nathan?
What, gas go down, go boom, boom? You need a flat plane for that. He hasn't been saying that for days, has he?
I have mentioned a couple of times that down only relates to a horizontal plane, but I've never put
you have mentioned that a few times. Yeah, granted. Scientific method stands on its own, says DALA. It blows BS out of the water. It makes sense. Why some people don't like it? ... Yeah, right on. Thanks for the super chat. People don't like it because the magic trick is to say that you've got science for something that you're bullshitting about. That's it. That's the trick. It's a really crude trick when you break it down. It can be broken down really easily. Science proves. So if you don't have proof, just say you've got science. That dupe put everyone on a ball.
Correct.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics? 105 people watching. Woohoo! Just do a quick shout out. Thank you for joining us, everybody who's joined us. Probably only here because people have smashed that share button. Really appreciate you being here. Please share the show. It's only a couple of clicks, and we can share this show for our
Astronomy?
Good.
Astronomy, cosmology, and astrophysics. If they're claiming the validity of natural science, then they're pseudoscience by definition.
That's correct.
So pseudoscience would not have viable hypothesis.
That's correct, but they still call themselves science. That's the problem. That's the dupe. Correct. Absolutely spot on.
But you don't know that they may never be able to.
Well done, Just Bill. Neil wants to tag on to your point, I think. Go on, Neil.
But how do you know they'll never be able to? They might one day be able to tell you what the stars are with hands on. We don't know that.
It's an appeal to the future fallacy. There's an appeal to the future fallacy. They already call themselves science. By definition, pseudoscience is a claim of science that has not been through the scientific method. They already claim they are science. The sciences they call themselves. No, they're not. By definition, they are pseudoscience. An appeal to the future fallacy won't get around that, Neil. But nice try.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to manipulate.
Hold on, Neil. Just Bill was actually in the middle of something when you put that across. Go ahead, Just Bill.
I was just speaking to Neil. They're not going to be able to manipulate the movement from east to west of the sun, moon, or stars. So astronomy and cosmology and, well, astrophysics, right? I mean, they're going to need a flat plane for all of this, but that's besides the point, that they can't manipulate or to any of this in order to prove their hypothesis or any hypothesis that they would put forward.
Well, they couldn't within their specific paradigm that they uphold, their system, their claims. Within that paradigm, they can't.
Yeah, they can't.
In another paradigm, they can?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if they suddenly drop that paradigm and actually see the lights in the sky as lights in the sky and then manage to very manipulate something about it that definitely wouldn't work together with their heliocentric cosmology, well, then they could still do it. It just wouldn't fit in what they do. And that's why they don't. They probably, at this point, maybe could try to do something with the stars or the sun and the moon somehow. But yeah, that wouldn't be in the interest of their story.
So you're saying willful pseudoscientist?
Yes.
Liars be lying.
Not science-based.
I don't know if they know that they're lying, Just Spell. There's very few people we can actually ascribe that to.
Well, you would have to know their motives, whether you knew, like, to say whether they know that they're lying or not. you would have to divine their motives.
For this instance, yes.
Can I give you one?
Not necessarily in all instances in this arena. So astronauts, the ones that are claimed to be floating around in a sky vacuum, an area that definitely does not exist, are unequivocal liars. I can point the finger at all astronauts and say they are liars. But beyond that example, yeah, you've got to divine their motivation. Let's try not to do that. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of people who come on the show that we deal with and interact with that we can show where they lie easily. Like Dell, for example. You know, there's easy examples to show liars when they lie. But when it comes to astrophysicists by stereotype, they're all like, no, you've got to be careful.
And just because you can formulate a motive for them to lie doesn't mean that is their motive for being wrong.
Being wrong, yes.
So,
Yeah, but why is it better?
Hold on, just let
I
John round out
assume-
his point. That's a great point. Just let John round out the point again. Being wrong, quite rightly said. Just say that again, John. That was perfect. Or carry on.
Just because you can formulate a motive for them to lie does not mean that's the reason they are wrong. Lying and being wrong are not the same thing. Let's just stick to what we can prove, and that's that they are wrong.
Yes.
How about this one? Okay, so this is, first of all, from an astrophysicist, which right there in the word. So this is Neil deGrasse Tyson saying this. If the Earth were flat, it would cast a flat shadow on the sun as it orbited the sun. This is what we're dealing with. This is the level of convolution.
Was there more to that, Roto? Or was that it?
Well, no, just that at the multi-level of convolution there, he has to know that's not right.
That's
to
strictly
present it
speaking,
in
right?
such a
Okay,
way.
let me just break down what he said. Right. What Tyson has done in that statement is a fallacy, and I'm going to say a fallacy and a half, which will make sense in a second. So the first half is the important half. And I say half because it's an affirming the consequent. He just doesn't state or he doesn't affirm the consequent, it's just implied. Right? Inside is affirming the consequent is also an orbital begging the question fallacy. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So he's saying if Earth were flat, so the way an affirming the consequent, we covered this earlier, breaks down if P, then Q, i.e., if my statement assumed in the first instance, in this case, on behalf of my opponent, flat Earth, then non sequitur. In fact, is he not providing? Would this not be modus tollens? It would be, wouldn't it? It would be modus tollens. He's offering it as a logical consistency. Say, if Earth was flat, like QE does with Black Swan, then we will observe this, and we don't observe this. Therefore, Earth's not flat. Correct?
Also assuming we're rotating the sun. So he throws that caveat in there.
Yeah, that's
It's
what I said.
convoluted on multiple.
Yeah, that's what I said when I said 1.5. That's the begging the question. That's a full fallacy to just beg that question of the orbital motion that he dropped in there. But also, he's giving you half an affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy, I believe. I'll have to go through it, and if I had it written out in front of me, I'd probably do a better job, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. He's trying to make it sound like it's a logical consistency, pretty much like all fallacies.
Well, now, so he is the spokesman for the public, and this is what he's broadcasting. And so if the question is he a liar? I mean, it's true.
No,
I mean,
just, in this instance, no, he's just got to avoid argument. Once you show how an argument is fallacious, the argument itself becomes void. Well, that doesn't automatically make Tyson a liar. You're going to be hard-pressed to find lies from Tyson. There's a few examples, I'm sure we could. But it's not as overt as astronauts when it comes to astrophysicists, which Tyson is. He's a high priest.
I guess it really doesn't matter if he is a liar if what is said is just a lie.
Not a lie, wrong. You can
correct.
The intention to deceive has to be there for you to label it lie. Well, he might not have any intention to deceive. We don't know without divining his motivation. I'm sure it was just Bill that covered that a minute ago. I'll just do a quick shout out to a super chatter. Excuse me. Chris Garza, thank you for the super chat. Boats disappearing over the curve always got me lol. Okay, thank you for the super chat. Let's read that again. Boats disappearing over the curve always. I think it's always got me. Lol.
Well, on that, the Neil deGrasse Tyson probably needs help with his understanding a little bit. If the measurements we use to calculate these motions were valid, then we would observe this. We don't observe this, therefore our calculations are invalid.
Right, so you tie it more squarely to the actual thing that's being done in the Q statement. So it's not deviating back onto the generalization of just it's a flat earth or it isn't, as he's done. You tie it down to the actual statement that's being disproven if he claims that's the case. Yeah. That was complicated.
You know,
Yeah, he's basically.
it's like we got three choices, right? It's he's a liar or he's ignorant, but I don't want to say he doesn't know. Like, which would make him a liar again.
No, I wouldn't label either for Tyson. No, skilled magician. There's a lot of admiration you can have for Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's a highly intelligent chap, and the way he and it is him that's doing it, positions the argument so carefully. It's a delight to pick apart because of the skill he employs, and he is skilled. Don't underestimate Neil Tyson and just label him a liar. That's too easy.
Well, I can't label him as if he doesn't know either.
What does
that's just?
You say doesn't know?
Like
he does know. He's not ignorant though, is he? He can detail things really well. I mean, I've gone through hours of footage trying to find something that he has slipped up on when it comes to Coriolis. It's really hard. You know, he manages to position things so vaguely while still offering enough detail to tie it back to an actual definition. Like his football example. You go and actually listen to what he says and how vague he keeps it while still giving you a vague misconception of Earth turning underneath the football. Yeah?
It is. It's magic. It is
magic.
I appreciate.
I'm smiling because I appreciate the wizardry that is Tyson. I mean, it's deceitful in terms of the subject matter and in terms of what he's claiming he's wrong. But, he's not an astronaut. If he says, yeah, I've been to space, yeah, immediately he gets labelled a liar. No, there is no space. It's like someone saying I've been to Narnia, looking you in the eye and telling you you've been to Narnia. You know they're a liar straight away. Well, we know that there is no sky vacuum. So the moment anybody claims that they're instantly a liar, there is no ifs, buts, or maybes about that.
Okay, Nathan, you're not an astronaut, correct?
Let's just see. I'm pretty sure I'm not. No.
All right. If you had punted it, like if you were to punt his field goal kick and his calculations as if that were the case, could we be right in calling you a liar?
If you're saying,
so we got three.
If I, again, without dividing my motivation, which is in place of Neil deGrasse Tyson's, if I personally did what Tyson did, I would easily be defined as a liar, because you can find a million examples of me contradicting that position, making me a liar. But you won't find that from Tyson. You're going to be hard pushed to label him a liar, I'm afraid. You're just going to have to accept that.
I accept your point. Yeah. I accept your point. He is a great...
Our battle is not with Tyson. He's a nice, useful, hostile witness to our argument, but the point overall isn't discredit Tyson. That's our opponent's tactics with us, right? Look at this individual and how discredited they are when they make a point that's valid. That's their tactic, not ours. He's wrong, and we can show that. That's what matters.
Yeah, Earth is measured flat.
For Tyson, his orbits. See, there you go. If we're discussing Tyson, we can't help avoid. We're not on the front foot. We're into this discussion. Fair enough, But in terms of when you can lead that conversation back to Tyson measuring Earth flat for his orbital motions in this fallacy that he offered up, the fact that he mentioned orbits, he's going to need a flat Earth for that. He's going to measure with respect to the ecliptic or the equatorial plane. He's going to describe the angle measurements to the stars that are detailed to give you a derivation of orbits around a sphere. From a flat plane measurement in the first instance, he's going to need a flat Earth for his orbits.
Can I just? I'd like to.
I just want to call him a liar. Just let me call him a liar, Nathan.
No, because we look stupid and bad if we do. If you can show his motivation to deceive people in his statements, then I'll back you every step of the way. If you can prove beyond certitude that what he has stated is factually a lie, like the sky vacuum, where there can be no other description of what they are saying when it cannot be true, they cannot believe they've gone to a place that doesn't exist. To not call it a lie. It is. But there's so few examples of that. And we look terrible if we just go around brandishing like our opponents do to us. We're either incompetent, as Brian puts it, stupid, or a liar. That's what we get labelled. It's not fun, but that is what they have. We need to rise above that. This is beneath us, just Bill. Roto, you wanted to get something in, unless you've got a rounding out point that is further to what you've said already, just Bill.
Oh, well, there's a fourth choice. You can be incompetent, you can be a liar, and whatever the other choice was. You can be all three, and that's the fourth choice.
You can. Go ahead, Roto.
Yeah, I like the what is aspect going on here. So all of the what isn't, right? So just to point at another tactic that's used to probably steer clear of in this what is movement, right? Earth's measured flat, great place to stick. But the vacuum, right? The magic box, just like Brian, I think, is really trying to hammer home that density equilibrium requires the medium. It's a requirement to the what we're observing on Earth, things falling or floating or sinking, what have you. But with the vacuum, they remove the medium. And this is where they like to do tests. And then this is where they like to say this happens and this doesn't happen. The magic box. You let when we go in there, it's just like entertaining Tyson. Just like we're saying, we could probably do the whole show in a vacuum chamber in Tyson, but that's not the what is, right?
What vacuum?
Or it's not in a vacuum. It's not. We don't observe those things. We don't observe the things Tyson says. It's so many leaps of logic. First, just that the Earth is a disk. It has a rim and has an edge. It's a finite size. It orbits the sun. The sun is still 93 million miles away. It would cast a flat shadow. It would affect the eclipses, this and that. That's just sideshow. That endless chasing in a bottomless pit.
It's all correct,
catering.
apart from just one thing. You're mixing up priests. So Michio Kaku is the guy that said it's leaps of logic, not Tyson, just so we're clear.
Well, all pseudo, right?
All pseudoscientists, yeah. All astrophysicists, yeah. Or no. What's Michio Kaku's title? He's a theoretical physicist, is he not? Either way, yes, all pseudoscience.
Funny on that sideshow, they just moved the goalpost with saying that now gravity is a pushing force from on high. He says that he lied to us, and that it's not a pulling force from the center, now it's a pushing force. So see, I mean, it's endless. The measurements are not, though. The measurements are.
While we're on a live show, yes, Roto, absolutely. Bullshitters that they are. Can I just give Adam some props from yesterday's show? I listened back to all of yesterday's show, Adam, and even when I was listening back, I still didn't catch the old switcheroo from elevation angle measurements with respect to the horizon to elevation changes. And when I got to that point, I was like, oh, I still didn't catch it. There he is pointing it out, and it's already happened, and you've caught it. But I was just pleased to not catch it the second time, meaning, oh, right, I still didn't catch it, even having had it happened already, you know what I mean, live. There's you pointing it out without me having caught it a second time around. So I just wanted to give you props for that. Do you know what I'm talking about? I don't know if you can hear us, Adam.
Yeah. That was a deceit again yesterday. It's kind of what I've been saying to the boys. It's everywhere, mate. Listen to these people now talk to you and analyse what they say. Don't worry about explaining to your audience or anybody else. just listen to these people and listen to the truth of what they're saying. There's no truth in it. All they've got is subdivision, lies, deceit, or just trying to mug you off. Yeah? And I don't know why. I genuinely don't know why all these people are behaving like this. Why Bev would even tend to be, he professes to be a flat earther. Why are people who are pretending to be genuine coming here, doing those things, being deceitful? And yesterday's a good one. I'm glad I did catch it. But they're out there all the time. This is not our stance.
Adam, it sounds like either you're in Europe or the UK. I can't hear you.
Oh,
I am in my car, which is currently in the UK.
I think he means that you've got the old Brian problem with a scratchy mic that gets cut out when it passes over to Discord.
Probably. I'll be home in a minute. But yeah, it was... Got to listen for them.
Say it again, Adam. Give us the Cliff Notes. Because we know you have a concise point to make.
I very, very rarely have a concise point. What I'll summarise then is just listen out. Thank you for the kudos to me for spotting it. There's tons of them, and as we move forward, make sure we are listening to what our opponents are actually properly saying instead of assuming and as giving them a level of intellect that they don't deserve. Listen to them, and that's generally all you'll actually have to deal with, pointing out the nonsense that's just come out of their mouth. Or lies.
You can say he absolutely was lying because the question was contextualized around an elevation angle. He said, you can do fuck all as an angle is his response, but when he's called on it, he says it's street poetry. He's lying. That's all that is.
That's what I'm going to call the show. Something like, Are They Liars? Unless someone can think of a better title.
Liars or just wrong.
Not very catchy.
Really?
Well, I've got to listen to it. This is going to go into a thumbnail. You know what I mean? Don't worry about it, Alwyn. It's okay. What show was that? 2027?
Yeah.
Cool. Got to get into making thumbnails. Oh, Neil.
Well, no, it was me. I was going to say I'm a millionaire. That's street poetry, just so y'all know. For me to claim that I'm a millionaire is now street poetry.
Yeah, my appeal to the couple of minions that had come here after the fact or made videos to me directly about you can do F all with an angle. Humiliatingly, embarrassingly wrong and parroted verbatim by several people. Putting that back to Bev was just a delight. It's like, you know, what? And his response, "Oh, I haven't seen those people around for ages." Oh dear.
Title for the show: Scientific Method Proves the Trinity. 1 equals 3. Let it be.
What was that? The scientific method? What? Proves the... What?
Well, we were talking about if A, then B, not A, therefore not B.
Yep.
And you detailed the scientific method, a valid hypothesis, right? And how there was like 3 choices in that logic.
No, 2.
Or 2.
Yeah. If A, then B, or if A, not B.
Right. But then the man chimed in from Discord, and it seemed as though there was a third choice.
Yeah, he implied that if A, not B, also would have what wasn't B aka if A, then C. That wasn't part of the hypothesis. If you vary A and induce a different effect, that is not B. Therefore, you're still validating your null hypothesis. A didn't cause B. If B is the effect of a blue bang, so you're trying to cause a blue bang you've noticed in nature. For whatever reason, you see a blue bang. You go, that's my effect I'm studying. From that point forward, all you are trying to induce is that blue bang. So if you say, I think A causes the blue bang, and you vary A and get an orange bang, that is validating your null. If A, not B. Because you didn't get the effect you were studying. You got a different effect. So that's if A, not B. You still validate the null in that circumstance. It's not a third choice. It doesn't give you an extra choice because something else happened that you weren't studying.
So if A, then B, not A, therefore not B, is the logical consistency
you got it
of
wrong.
the scientific.
Stop. If A, then B, or if A, not B.
Okay, if A, then B, or if A, not B.
Correct.
I love logic.
Yes, perfect. That's not logic because it can't be called logic either at that point because those two statements, when given together, make no sense. A scientific prediction doesn't make sense on its own. It can't stand alone because it contradicts itself. So you can't call it logic. It's the method's based in logic, and the logic that will be confirmed is either if A then B or if A not B. But at the point when you've just got the hypothesis, that's another. I'm pointing this out because it's another trick that our opponents use. They take a hypothesis and infer that half a hypothesis, if A then B or if A not B, somehow proves their non sequitur claim that they have alongside it.
Okay, so the third choice is an illusion.
There is no third choice. What are you talking about?
Half of a hypothesis.
There is no third choice in the hypothesis. It's just alternative and null. That's it.
Okay, I'm trying to understand. Okay, what's the logic behind the scientific method? Because I don't know.
The logic,
is it?
The logic is if you.
There's not logic.
There has to be logic.
Well, it's based in abductive. It's based in abductive logic, but the results are not necessarily logical. You understand that?
It's just what is at that point. It's just is what it is at that point. A does cause B.
So it's an is. It's answering
Wait a second.
an is.
Are you talking about how the scientific method was formed?
Yeah, we're talking at cross purposes. You've got two things. The outcome, which is just an empirical statement of fact once it's been validated. You're not talking about, well, it logically infers blah, blah, blah. No. A just causes B, statement of fact, once the experiment's done. But the methodology's been developed with logic. You can state parts of it with the logical consistency that they don't offer until you put it through the actual full method and get the empirical outcome. You're not seeking logical consistency from the scientific method. You're seeking empirical outcome. The fact that the methodology is wrapped up in logic in terms of its basis to offer that empiricism doesn't change the outcome that you're trying to achieve. You're just trying to achieve the empirical outcome. Proof. That's all you're trying to achieve.
The method
Can
is
I say
based
something?
in
You said
logic.
something about like he said something right. It is proving what it is, but doesn't also prove sometimes what it isn't.
That's all it can do. One or other. That's right. Yes, it can only do one of those two things. Prove that it does your presumed cause, that is, cause the effect you're studying, or it doesn't cause the. It can only do one of those two things. You can only prove one or other.
Why is this so simple? It's hard to understand.
How is it hard to understand, honey? What are you not getting? If you don't mind.
It's been convoluted by people that wanted to hijack it. That's why it's hard to understand. I mean, it was for me. I knew it, and I still, it'd been convoluted in my mind so much. It took QE pointing it out for me to get it.
So, okay, so we got two choices, you're saying. If A, then B, not A, therefore not B. There's two choices. You could either prove A causes B, or you could prove A does not cause B, right? And that's two choices.
No, two possible outcomes.
But, however, you can come across can there be an outcome? Okay, but there can't, because of the way the hypothesis is constructed. It's almost like you're proving the null, you're proving the null to the null. You're proving the null to any other option.
You can't be doing that.
I think what you're trying to
Because
say
it means
is
you're not using scientific method.
yeah, if you work outside of the very narrow confines of the method, you're not doing science anymore. If you're saying, oh, well, I validated this thing that was a different effect that I wasn't studying in the hypothesis. Hooray, science! No. You either confirm that what you were studying was induced upon variation of a presumed cause, or it doesn't happen. Something else happening is it doesn't happen, the effect you were studying. But this different effect doesn't matter. It's not what you were studying. You were trying to induce B, and you didn't.
Yeah, you manipulated A and B happened, or you manipulated A and B didn't happen. That's it. Nothing more to it.
But John's
Yeah,
right.
well,
It's the convolution that makes it confusing. The simplicity of the methodology is within the hypothesis. That's the sort of the main bit of science. Formulation of the hypothesis to then be actualized, put into effect to see which one of those two things is true. That's really all it is. It's pretty simple. But when you've got people telling you, look at my peer-reviewed science paper, it's 50 pages long, and there's a good chance 99 times out of 100 it won't have any hypothesis in it at all. No independent or dependent variable whatsoever. But you'll be told it's
No,
science.
100 times out of 100 it won't. Because if it did, it wouldn't need peer review. 100 times out of 100, it won't have a scientific hypothesis in it. It can't have. Otherwise it wouldn't be able to
Brian,
peer
of
review.
all the things,
No, that's not true. No, that's not
Brian,
strictly true. Hold on, I'm just going to go, Brian. No, that's not true. You can still a validated hypothesis, that is to say, a successful experiment with an alternative being validated, can still be sent off for publication and go through the rigorous process of peer review, because peer review isn't what people think either. Going through it and checking it and making sure it's right is not what peer review is. But there's a good chance that you will find scientifically validated papers within the peer-reviewed papers. Just because it's peer-reviewed doesn't mean it isn't science, is what I'm driving at. That's wrong.
I'd have to contest that. I'd have to completely contest that, as there'd be absolutely no reason to there'd be no reason to even send it off. I mean, there it is.
It's
It
not
is
good
what
logic.
it is.
Okay. If I ceramic coat a car and therefore I say there is absolutely no reason to ever put this through a car wash because it's magical ceramic and dirt simply will not stick to it, therefore it hasn't been through a car wash. Excuse me, I just watched it come out of the car wash. No, it's ceramic coated. There can't be a need for a car wash. But it was just washed. It did go through the peer review process and was scientific. You can't just say because it isn't needed, it couldn't have been through it. That doesn't stack up, sorry.
I'd have to contest that.
Okay.
It's like the peer review, because once you publish your own paper, do you know what I mean? At that point, you publish your own. Once you do the experiment and you publish the results, you lay out the exact hypothesis and the hypothesis test, and and you publish your results. And it's there for whoever
I'll
wants.
concede. I haven't got an example to back what I'm saying. I can't suddenly go, here you go, here's 100 documents, and here's the 1 in 100 that I literally said, and it does have a hypothesis. I can't provide you with that, so I'm not going to continue this argument. I can't back what I'm saying, so I'll just concede.
Hold on, no, because just because 99% of those papers don't have the scientific method in them, doesn't mean they don't utilize them. And if you do a scientific paper and just talk about what you've done, formulate your hypothesis, and say you've done an experiment, people would just have to trust that's what you did. Peer review is supposed to be about eliminating trust. The systematic experimentation is supposed to keep you honest.
Yeah, but no, because once you publish your findings, you publish all your work, your hypothesis, your full hypothesis test, and your results. Then once it's published, people can then do it for themselves. Once they stick to exactly what you did, you know what I mean? Whereas peer review is about getting into it published in a journal, which is more of a boys' club, if you understand what I mean.
So the delayed choice quantum eraser, anybody can do that experiment?
If they have the understanding and the equipment, they can. You know, they have to have the equipment.
If they have $1 million equipment, they can do it. So if you have extremely expensive equipment, you can do it too. Or you can just trust what I said.
No, if you have the knowledge, the understanding, like the knowledge, the understanding, the equipment, and the facilities, you can do it. Yeah, but you know what I mean. That is a very specific thing, is it not?
It goes to your point, Brian.
I would say I would go ahead and say that most of the scientific discovery being done right now relies on extremely expensive equipment. So, yeah, you're talking about these things don't go together. I just don't. I don't see it.
You're talking about the same coin. It's just different sides.
Well, yeah, you'd have to start claiming that a university told a lie. What are you going to do? One university does something, and another university replicates it. Regardless, I understand what you're saying, that for a lot of the experiments done in today's world, because they're going to be involving probably the micro levels and not so much that you're going to involve probably very expensive equipment. I take that on board, but that doesn't change the initial statement I made. It's like you put out your findings, you lay out everything you did, and it's there to be replicated. No one's going to call you a liar. They're going to either replicate it or they're not. They can't call you a liar until they replicate it or don't replicate it. Go on, Neil. Sorry.
So they seem to think that they're replicating the Cavendish experiment in colleges.
That's not an experiment. That's the difference. It's not an experiment.
I agree.
They don't have an hypothesis. It's not an experiment. You don't have a naturally observed phenomenon.
I'm going to get this the wrong way around now. I think it's a fallacy of division to say, because they're taking the aspect in the scientific method of repeatability. That is to say, you will perform systematic experimentation when you validate the scientific prediction, aka a hypothesis. Well, that systematic experimentation is then taken as a repeatability aspect that they will apply to the repeated application of a man-made device without an observed natural phenomena. So look, we've done it over and over and over again, therefore it's science. Is that fallacy of division?
That's the third choice. Fallacy of division. That's what it is, yeah.
Well, they do. They also will do something else, where they will observe something, and then they will observe it again, and then observe it again. As QE says, close their eyes and open them again. It's the same thing. Doesn't matter if you go back there once a month and observe the same thing. The point is that you may as well just close your eyes and open it again, because then they just have this whole big build-up of frequent observations of the same thing.
Well, that doesn't subtly different, but the same. So what you're saying is that, as opposed to, look, we've repeatedly performed a man-made, conjured experiment, therefore it's science, as opposed to, I've repeatedly observed the phenomena I'm claiming, therefore it's science.
Yeah, both of them are fallacious.
Well, both aren't science.
Yeah, but they're logically fallacious. Anyway.
Yeah, fallacy of division.
I mean,
taking part of the whole like it's part of, like it's true, taking what is true of part of it as though it's true of the whole. Therefore, this is science. Why? Well, because I've got one aspect, repeatability.
if you take the first example where they create their own effect in a man-made device that we don't observe in nature, and then they create that effect another 100 times using the same methods and the same man-made device. I mean, what are they doing? They're just creating the same effect that has no relation to reality and nature 100 times. And then you take, right, so that can't be science. That's just them doing this nonsense. The second one is when they go out and observe a natural phenomenon 100 times, but they either don't or they can't test for the cause. They can't call, like, yeah, great, you observe something. That's like me observing the sun 100 times. That's not going to, so what? You know what I mean? That, like, science. I looked at the sun 100 days in a row.
Science.
They do the same thing with the Michelson-Morley.
Yeah,
well, that is the conjuring of it. Sorry, Nathan, go on.
I was just going to agree. Similar trick.
It's the conjuring of an effect. Within, and the way it's set up is it's set up around the idea of us rotating. So it's starting with two pre-assumptions before it ever gets going. And then they conjure an effect that that is not observed by the same interferometry that's being used in aircraft and other military vehicles and different things like that. Do you know what I mean?
So does Whitsitt
in the military,
know what? All right, my next question is, so does Whitsitt know what science is? Because in his debate on Modern Day Debates the other day, he brought up the Michelson and Morley experiment. He said it just like that. So on one hand, I thought he understood what the scientific method is. On the other hand, he doesn't know what it is.
Depends who he's talking to.
He does know.
Exactly.
He knows it. It just depends who he's talking to. If he's talking to somebody who he's trying to swindle with his dupe that uses the scientific method to claim experiments where they don't have a phenomena and they've conjured it, then he'll say it's an experiment, knowing full well that it doesn't comport with that. If he's talking to us, he'll avoid saying the word experiment so he doesn't get called on the fact that it isn't. So it depends who he's talking to.
Right. He'll concede when he's talking to us that it's not an experiment, but then claim it's an experiment to others. That's just a lie.
Yeah.
So he's disingenuous then.
Right, that's a lie. No, because we know he knows what science is. He's been demonstrated to understand it. He's also disclaimed to us that he understands and appreciates it's not an experiment. Therefore, to go out and disclaim it as an experiment is a lie. Simple.
Well, what Whitsitt may do, because he does know different, is to call it the Michelson-Morley experiment. As you said, Nathan, it depends on who he's talking to, for ease of getting the subject passed, as opposed to, see, the thing about it is, like, if he calls it a demonstration and the person says experiment, he goes, no, it's a demonstration, then he'll have to go into the rigmarole of pointing out what science is and what science isn't, and he won't get to talk about it then. Because he wants to talk about it. So I think he's willing to call it an experiment when he knows it's not an experiment, simply so he gets to talk about it.
But it can't be called a demonstration because that's what an experiment is. It's a demonstration of a known fact.
Well, it can be because you can demonstrate things that aren't science. If you know what I mean, you can you can demonstrate the effect that's being created by the setup using interferometry.
Sure. It's just interferometry, though. It's not proving his point. So, regardless, if you got that chick with a really deep voice that was done for massive fraud when she was pretending that she got a little test that would give people blood analysis in seconds. Do you know what I mean? In the same vein as Whitsitt, she knows that it doesn't do that. Oh, it does do something when she gives the blood sample to someone else and they take it to an actual analysis lab and analyse it on the fly while she keeps them talking because she was a fraud. Well, like Whitsit, she knows otherwise. She knows that's not what's happening. But it's far easier for her to just say, this is, let's say she uses the word experiment, even though it isn't, because it's far easier to move things along by lying, is what you're essentially saying. It's easier to get the ball rolling with his lie regarding Michelson-Morley if he calls it an experiment, which it isn't. That helps things along nicely. Yeah, it does. The same trick that got us on a ball, lying to us about what isn't science, because you've got a point that you want to make. Yeah, he's got a point that he wants to make about ether, so he's going to lie about what isn't science to make his point.
But the thing about it is that
especially tempting to do that type of thing when you're talking to like lay people, I guess you could say, or normies. But
Johnny,
sometimes
you're too quiet, Chocolate. Can't make out what you're saying.
Forget it.
I could hear Chocolate. What he was saying is, I won't go into it because he didn't get to finish his point. But if Whitson is debating someone, a baller, and this baller is going to be putting things forward like the Cavendish, right, and call that an experiment, and if Whitson wants to get the Michelson-Morley in, then he can't address the word experiment for either. If you know what I mean, he's going to allow the guy to call the Cavendish an experiment, so he can call the Michelson-Morley an experiment, even though he knows none of them are experiments, scientific experiments. But he's going to allow it. I don't know why. The only reason I could think he does it, maybe he can confirm, is because he has the ether belief. But I mean, I don't see the point. Because you have to. I can't pull someone if I'm calling something an experiment, and I know it's not an experiment. Then I can't pull my opponent on their claim of Cavendish being an experiment. I can't pull them on that because I'm being doubly disingenuous then. Because you know what I mean. I can't pull them on that as not being an experiment, and then call my thing an experiment when I know it's not an experiment. So you'd have to you'd probably have to. I don't know. I don't listen to his debates. But does he let it slide when they say Cavendish or something? Does he let that slide?
I don't know if the guy brought up Cavendish at all. He brought up Michelson-Morley, and the guy said, "Yeah, that was a failed experiment." Cavendish, Michelson-Morley. What's the difference?
But see, there you go. Listen to the language. Not only is it not an experiment, but not only is it claimed to be an experiment, it's claimed to be a failed experiment. Why? What was the failure? It's like Aries failure. It's like when they go into Aries failure. Huh?
The failure was a valid hypothesis.
Well, that would be the
failure.
Go on, Adam.
The failure was in response to what it was supposedly going to demonstrate, and that was Earth rotation, wasn't it? That's a bit like Airy.
Exactly.
If you attach it, what the failure's to, it's to
right. And then Cavendish. Correct me if I'm wrong. In Cavendish, it was the weight of the Earth.
Density, yeah, or
average density. Yeah. But the point is that Cavendish is not called a failure, but they will call Michelson-Morley a failed experiment, right? It's not an experiment at all. And they'll say the same about Airy's failure. It's called Airy's failure because it didn't support a heliocentric model or paradigm, I should say. It didn't support that. So they called it a failure. It failed to support the heliocentric paradigm. Well, they're still calling it an experiment when it isn't an experiment at all. So it's rotten to the core.
If only we'd have known this stuff when we first got here, Brian.
It would have made things so much faster and easier.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, just didn't listen.
What?
I listened really hard.
You just didn't listen.
Okay.
Amen. I know that's right.
That's
I know
unfair.
that's right. I got bad ears.
That's unfair. I
was born a child with bad ears.
Not correct. Where are we at?
I will say, we were talking about with it lying. That's where we were at.
We're trying to
I think.
Well, let me ask
Sorry.
you: if Witzik postulates that the Michelson-Morley claim is an experiment when he knows full well it isn't, is that a lie?
Yes.
That's what I said.
Yes,
yeah, pretty cut and dry.
Yes, just like if astronauts coming to go to a sky vacuum, they know they've not been there. That's a lie.
Yeah, like if you say you've got a test for blood tests that's done in minutes when it isn't, you know that isn't the case. That's a lie. Yeah, it's easy. If you know something isn't the case and you say it is, then that's a lie.
Yeah, it's intention to deceive. Well, he compromised himself in the first 10 minutes.
But
if you listen to a good thing to do would probably pull up the video, right? And then go through it.
We did it in yesterday's pre-show, actually. So the very first thing he does out of the gate is say, you know what ends this argument? Me juxtaposing gravity with ether. That's his opener.
No, I'm talking about the debate part. Not the 10-minute idiot presentations that these morons do on that idiot show. I'm talking about what the engineer, that idiot engineer, he had Witsit. You said Witsit understands scientific method. He should after 3 years of listening to me, but he doesn't. If you listen to it, if you got by it, I'm shocked that you didn't bring up the prediction. The step in infection with that, but he didn't understand what a prediction was. And the engineer was throwing him off the trail with predictions. He got him to say that, and Newtonian mechanics is false. That's what the engineer said, but we still use it. And then I guess he Jedi mind tricked, shit's at 10. And yeah, it's still, we use, yes, but it's still false. So you went over that? You sure about that?
No, he didn't. And I put it out there yesterday. They started playing it and stopped because they want to get off his back.
Shut up, Neil.
The fact, it makes more sense to me now why Witsit would call it an experiment, Michelson-Morley. I just a light bulb moment there a few minutes ago when the claim failed experiment came up. He wants to show how it wasn't a failure that it proved the ether. That's why he's okay with Go on.
He wants the results of his parlor trick to have, or he wants his interpretation of the results to have some validity, that the word science would imply that there's some substantialness behind this quasi-experiment. And that's why he's doing it, to support his belief. Back up his belief.
Stolen valor. It's just as simple as that. Like the ballers do.
Love you, Nick.
On the other hand, let's focus on some positive. No, we didn't cover that, Kiwi. Did he at any point prove the Earth's flat? That is to say, point out that Earth's being measured as a horizontal plane?
No.
I don't know. I didn't watch enough of it.
At any point, I was hoping it would be on the front foot, first thing that's put forth for us as a flat earther, that Earth's measured flat. It's quite an important detail to proving Earth's flat. It's like the silver bullet. Did he?
Well, that's what shocked me, because I thought that's what he was going to lead with.
That's what I was literally in the middle of saying, Neil. Yes, I was in the middle of saying that. Yes, I hoped he would lead with that. If you're saying you've got a good chunk through it and he hasn't proven Earth's flat yet, that's disappointing, right?
Oh, that would have been in his first 10-minute presentation. I didn't listen. I skip all that. If I'm watching modern day debates, I skip the first 40 minutes or so. Whenever they get done with their presentation, that's where I start. So I don't know. You'd have to go back to when he started his first 10-minute presentation.
Yeah, we covered that bit. That's what we did cover. So between you and I, we know that he didn't prove Earth's flat. Certainly didn't do it on the front foot. He didn't come out swinging with Earth's measured flat. He didn't do any of that. He came out swinging with, I can end this debate by juxtaposing ether with gravity. And then the rest of it, from what you've told me, was him lying about him having an experiment, some sort of scientific validity, which he knows he hasn't, making him a liar. Well, that's so disappointing after we had a nice discussion and we seemed to be in agreement at the end of it. But there we go, that's life.
No, he agreed with you just to save face at the end.
To watch the prediction part. That's the funniest part. It goes on for like 10 or 15 minutes. That might be a bit too long, but it's friggin' hilarious.
Well, the guy's got him swimming, boy.
Nathan,
That's me.
I think what Witsit is doing is when he starts speaking about the ether, and he starts bringing it up, and speaking about all all the jargon comes out, right? We all know what the jargon is. He either bamboozles people or he impresses people who are listening. So he's gaining himself notoriety. And in my opinion, he ends up chasing
Just the facts, Brian.
He ends up chasing that notoriety, and in the hope that it gains him being a flat earther more validity. But it's also his opportunity to push his belief in ether. If you know what I mean. So for him, it's a double win. If you understand what I mean. But that's because down to what's his motivation for being there? Is his motivation to prove the earth is a measured horizontal? Is measured in such a way we can only describe it as flat.
I love it how you're stuttering over saying it, and I get it. I liked how we were in perfect allegiance yesterday with Bev, right? Because there was a point in the discussion. I was going to give you props. I'm glad this has come up, actually. Props. Your little section in that needs trimming out, Brian. It was epic. So I cleared the airwaves, and in Bev's mind, I should be finding what Brian's saying objectionable, because fundamentally, at surface level, it disagrees with what I've said. It doesn't. And Brian clarifies right at the end. But because Brian and I have had that conversation, maybe you don't know, we're still being recorded, but after, I can't remember which show, I spent, 4.5 hours with you guys as we unpacked, it was after Earth discussions, and there was like a massive debrief. And this aspect, which obviously I was at the time, and still am, pushing forward with all of my panel, and all of the objections, one of which had already come up, Brian's objection, this don't sit well with me. We're not making geometric claims when we say Earth's flat. It's a description of overall Earth. And therefore, for me and the way I argue, it's difficult for me to say, quote, Earth is measured flat. However, it is strictly true. And in terms of common vernacular and how we describe things, flat is perfectly reasonable. And he even took Elder Bear through the logical consistency and got him to admit it's a perfectly acceptable and reasonable way to describe Earth. So with all that being said, I know I'm okay at the end of this. I can clear the airwaves and stop everyone jumping on Brian so he can have the argument. Now, they're trying to constantly leverage me against Brian in this. Well, Brian knows already because we have had this discussion. I know where he's going. He knows where he's going. But now, after the fact, it would be convenient for Brian to say Earth's measured flat, but on principle, he stuttered and rephrased, and I applaud you. Good on you.
Overly pedantic. It's overly pedantic. You could fix the argument. You could fix it by just saying, we measure the Earth as a horizontal plane. That's it.
No, because that's what Bev wanted to say.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'll go back to what I was about to say, which is, if you're talking about celestial navigation, then technically you are measuring it flat because you're not dealing with elevation changes of any kind. So you are measuring a horizontal plane. More correctly, you're measuring a horizontal plane because flat is not geometric, so you're not measuring flat. You can't measure flat, right? But that's when. Sorry, can we please leave me finish it? Right.
Oh God.
Just let me finish it, and you'll see where I'm going with it. I mean, instead of jumping on it. So, when it comes to celestial navigation, we are measuring a horizontal plane. When it comes to aerospace, we are measuring a horizontal plane. But when it comes to surveying, you're not. That's when you're dealing with elevation changes. And there are the three main ways of measuring the Earth, the greater Earth, let's just say. So when it comes to surveying, it's a sticky one because you're not going to have just a horizontal plane. You will have that as your reference, but you will be measuring elevations and dealing with elevations. But if you don't deal with elevations in celestial navigation and in aerospace, you're not dealing with elevations.
When you deal with an elevation,
define measurement before we move forward. Define measurement. Don't say it's not. Define measurement.
How does that change what I just said? Because what I just said is 100%, 100 million, billion% true, and nobody will ever.
Can I address what you just said? Just specifically with that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, he asked me a question. I'd like to go ahead and address the question he just asked me.
Can one of us,
And
so
then
we
you
don't have
can.
to linger on this forever, because it's a
Measurement.
valid point. What's a measurement? Please, can someone define it just so we can move on?
It's an empirically derived piece of information.
No. It's not empirical.
No, that's not a measurement. No, that's not a measurement. That's not how you define a measurement.
Convention. I can't believe I'm saying this.
Measurement always involves some interaction between the object and the observer or observing instrument. There is always an exchange of energy.
John, you've obviously got you've obviously got
also a
definition.
conceptual.
Why don't you give it?
It's a conceptual unit applied to an aspect of reality or your reference.
Which you derive from reality. You have to take it from reality.
The reference.
Hold on, one then the other. John, then Adam.
So your reference is part of your measurement. When you measure from a horizontal plane, the horizontal plane is part of your measurement.
Yeah, but
yes,
indirectly at that point.
It's going to say theoretically you link the two. I'm not sure the point. Refracted. What you said? What's a measurement? What? If we affirm what a measurement is, what's that supporting what Brian said? I'm not sure what your
reference. The reference is part of your measurement. True or not?
Yes.
It will relate to it, won't it? It's the reference of the measurement.
Eddie and I had the same conversation. I'm gonna
hold on,
get in here.
Hold on.
Oh Jesus!
Hold on. Just let Adam and John. Nice that you can reminisce through the middle of their discussion. We'll get to you and Betty later. I promise.
We had the same discussion last night. Is what I'm trying to say, but you won't let me say it. You guys are all involved in this pedantic horse shit, right? It's a dick measuring contest with pedantic horse shit. Fucking tedious. But
that's why I'm trying to get through it. I'm not sure what with respect to what Brian's said with regards to elevation, and then Refracted said this point about measurement. And so I'm just trying to understand the link between reiterating the term measurement and how it supports Brian. So just go back to Refracted and you take the floor, mate, because I'm fumbling.
The accusation of the dick measure.
The reference.
Hold on, just Bill. Hold on.
Your reference is part of the measurement. You can't say you reference the measurement. That doesn't make sense. The reference is included in the measurement.
I think QE had a point.
I want to know what John's point is, like Adam does. He's trying to link it back. Brian's explaining it's reasonable as a description, non-geometric, to say flat.
That's what Brian said.
Yeah, and John has said,
And if you're talking about elevation changes from a flat plane as your reference, then how are you not referencing the Earth as flat when you're describing the topology upon it?
You're not measuring flat. Flat is a description. Do you understand what I mean? Flat is how we describe the plane you measure.
Adam said what you
please,
said.
just Bill. Please, we don't need your colour commentary. It's the second time. Come on. I can't hear what they're saying because I'm getting your colour commentary through the top of it.
I'm not very funny. I'm going to mute.
The point is that you can't measure something flat because that's illogical. Because what I mean by that is that if flat is a description, which is what it is, then flat is not what. Flat is how we will describe what has been measured afterwards. but you can't. You can measure something. You can measure a horizontal plane because then you're giving, although that is flat, it's given an orientation. The point I made originally was that it's only surveying that deal with, when it comes to the three main ways we measure the bigger Earth. There's aerospace, celestial navigation, and surveying. The first two, you don't account for elevations. There's no elevations involved. Celestial navigation purely only deal with mean sea level. Aerospace deals with altitudes that are well above any topology, so they're only dealing with a horizontal plane. But when it comes to surveying, you are dealing with elevation changes. Now, they're wrong. They understood the logic yesterday, and Bev didn't say anything yesterday when I made the point to the guy, his friend, that there's no better way of describing the Earth than flat. Flat, it describes it. There's no better description. There isn't. It doesn't exist. A better description doesn't exist. Because what it is, if I'm describing something, I have to describe it correctly. And nobody can show me how describing it as flat is incorrect. Because someone saying, "Oh, elevation changes," it's a category error. The first thing you think is, "I know that's a straw man. I didn't say there wasn't elevation changes," but that's not the point. It's actually a category error because your table can have undulations on it that will be equal to the undulations on the Earth. Your kitchen table can't be described as that but flat. Do you know what I mean? So as soon as you start getting into geometric things and the word flat, then you're fooling yourself. And if you allow yourself to get brought in there by somebody who says, "Oh, you can't call it flat because there's elevation changes," they're fooling themselves and they're fooling you if you get involved. You understand?
Well, let me go ahead and tell you, the reference is part of the measurement. Like if I say, build a scale based on temperature, where the freezing point is my reference, the point at which water freezes, and I make that my zero, still part of the measurement. Now, if you're talking about height changes, your measurement will still involve your zero, which is your reference, which is
we're talking about mean sea level. That'd be a horizontal plane. Specifically, that would be a horizontal. You'd have to call it horizontal plane because you have to reference the orientation at that point.
Okay.
So when you measure,
sorry, I just want to conclude it. I just don't want there to be a back and forth now. I paid really close attention to what he said. I now want John to respond with his original rebuttal in regards to the definition of measurement, so that we can tie these two things together now. It seems like it's going where I think it's going, and it seems clear. Just want John to clarify his original position that became contentious. Go ahead, John.
Right. Your reference is part of your measurement. You can't exclude it from a measurement.
How did that address what I said originally?
So how high or low things are with relation to sea level. What are you dealing with? What's your reference? Sea level. What's sea level?
But you're not tying it into what I said originally. What I said originally was a statement of fact. I don't see how this ties into it.
It's the surface of Earth. If you're talking about the average height of the surface of Earth deviates from the mean, you're still talking about the surface of Earth. The reference is part of your measurement.
Yeah, but that's how I don't see. You brought that up in response to what I originally said, and I don't see how it's connected to what I originally said.
So you said that in surveying they don't measure the Earth as flat because they're measuring topology, and in reference to
but this is the bit I want to hear. Brian, stop. This is the bit I really want to hear.
Is that
just let him say it?
Man of me?
Maybe.
they're measuring topology changes in reference to what? The surface of Earth.
This is where I wanted to.
Please let him. I just want, when John says that's the end, I'm going to get accused of favoritism if I keep white knighting for John to make the end of his point. I really want to tie this together. I'm really straining to concentrate. Please, Adam, you can go next, I promise. And just Bill, you too, and QE.
It's not non-sequitur. It's
up to you, John.
What about Brian?
You've just had your piece. Now we're into the response.
No,
we
he's
had,
not
we had
addressing me,
4
Nathan. I
straight
should be
minutes
allowed to
from you.
respond to him.
I really paid
I should be
attention to
allowed
what
to
you said,
respond.
Brian.
You're strawmanning me, and you're allowing it.
Yeah, I want to hear it first. Yeah, I've got to hear it.
You just did. You just heard it.
I haven't heard it. If
You
you say,
did,
well, he's might hand the mic to Adam if that's the case. I'm offering him the opportunity to hand it to Adam or not. But you've had your piece. I listened. I really did. I promise.
No, John just strawmanned me. How did I have my piece? If John just responded to me with a straw man.
We'll get to it if he's finished. Are you done, John?
Yeah, I'd like to hear how topology or surveying doesn't use Earth as a horizontal plane.
Fine. We'll get
It's
to that
flat.
from Brian in a second after Adam adds his apparently not non-sequitur point that he definitely wants to get in and will now.
Yeah. Hopefully it links. So my point I was going to say is when Brian's talking about the elevation of something with respect to sea level, once again, even for the surveyor, you set up another flat parallel plane, yeah, to do all your work on, which is designated flat and parallel, and the distance of the parallelness is what's described as elevation. Okay? But we're still I agree with John's point, and I agree with Brian, because at all these points we are demonstrating and referencing flat planes, whether it's one we set up imaginarily at a set altitude, or one that is the reference point for any planes we set up at altitude, which is sea level. And I agree with John in that to make that statement, you are referencing the plane. And in this case, you're referencing the surface. The topography, however it's described, is also reference to that flat plane.
Hey, Brian, I'm still following along. What's your objection? How is it a straw man? Go ahead.
I have about 100 million objections here.
Okay, you've got all the time you need.
First out, I never said they measured it flat. I never said that. John,
I appreciate that.
Said this. I never said that. I'm going to say exactly what I said. What I originally said, I'm going to say.
I appreciate that.
And he also said, and I'm going to add in the other thing he said. He built a straw man. Like, I never said that they weren't referencing a horizontal plane in surveying. Never said that. Never ever said that. I did not say that. Yet John built up the straw man argument, which was just a lie, to tear me down. Now, I'm going to say
why does John always get accused of lying? I've got to stop you now. Don't accuse him of lying. This is outrageous, Brian. Brian, please, don't accuse him of lying. He's put a position to you. You say it's a straw man. Where you've compared it and said, well, I didn't say it wasn't measured as a horizontal plane. He's putting it as flat plane, as is Adam. And this is the bit I'm hyper-focused on.
I'm trying to give exactly what I originally said. What I originally said was celestial navigation treat out as a horizontal, not flat, not saying just randomly flat as a description. Horizontal plane, aerospace treat out as a horizontal plane, right? Because they don't deal with topography, they don't deal with elevation changes. Surveying they specifically deal with elevation changes. And they do reference the horizontal plane that we call mean sea level. I've never said they don't do that, but I'm saying that's the difference between the three disciplines when it comes to the measurement of the Earth. And the third one, which is surveying, that's the one that Bev and them are stuck on. They don't understand. They're missing the point when it comes to the other two. Or at least they were. But, but even saying that, I can't even say that because I don't even know what the full position is. The point is that when it comes to surveying, you can't say they're measuring a horizontal plane. No, they're measuring elevations based off of a horizontal plane. But they're measuring more than a horizontal plane. So to say they're measuring a horizontal plane is not correct, because I'm doing more than that.
Okay, well, from what I've followed so far, Brian, John's objection, I don't see it as a straw man, is to say, therefore, part of the definition of measurement is that reference that you just described as a flat Earth.
Well, considering those three disciplines, the only way you could describe the Earth is as flat. There is no better description.
Sure. I just want to hold on, Adam. I just want to, as I understand it, reiterates John's point to you, which is to say, in order to call it a measurement at all, it has to include that reference, and that reference that you just described, you've called a horizontal plane when describing the deviation in surveying. But that reference, the flat Earth, regardless of if you call it a horizontal plane that'll be referenced or a flat Earth that'll be referenced, is specifically part of the measurement if you're going to call it a measurement. Is that correct, John? And then Brian can respond.
Yes.
Okay, Brian, go ahead.
That was a mute point, because nobody said it wasn't part of the measurement. Nobody said that. I never employed that. I said, and I'd say it again, when it comes to surveying, they're doing more than just measuring a horizontal plane. They're measuring elevations based off of that horizontal plane.
So therefore, it's the third time. It's the third time, Brian. I got this twice.
What's wrong with being specific?
Okay.
They have to be detailed and specific. It's important. Especially when we have people being very pedantic.
Okay, unless I'm missing something. From what I've just gleaned, unless you object to, and it hasn't come up so far, besides you using a different term to John and Adam, they're saying flat Earth, flat plane, you're saying horizontal plane. But aside from that subtle discrepancy between what the two of you are saying, it does seem to me like, for surveying, you are going to be measuring Earth flat, regardless of whether or not you justify that or dislike the word flat, which I can agree with you in the terms you've put forth. I'm not going to disagree with that, right? But in terms of the actual measurement, based on John's objection that you've also called a straw man and claimed he's a liar for using outrageous, is that I seem content to move forward and say that surveyors will measure Earth flat.
It's not outrageous. John built up a straw man. That's not outrageous. That happened. That's the truth. That's not something I made up. I didn't make the thing up. I'm not guilty of making up stuff. John was guilty of it, not me. It's not outrageous at all. That's what happened.
That's where we started with him asking you to define measurement. Okay, but from where I stand, it just seems like because they are doing a measurement, and part of their measurement is a flat Earth, to say that they are measuring Earth flat doesn't seem unreasonable. Would you disagree, Brian?
For me, it's not specific enough. For me, because the word flat can be used to describe, and like horizontal is described as flat. They're measuring what they measure. The best way to describe it, for the three disciplines, celestial navigation, aerospace, and surveying, what they do, right, leaves you with no other option but to describe the Earth as flat if you want to describe it correctly. But if you want to talk about measurement, then they're talking what they're doing with.
Brian, so when I've heard a number of phrases used, all of which are synonymous to me. So if we have a horizontal plane, the horizontal is telling me one thing, and the plane is the flat reference surface. You can call it a plane, you call it a flat Earth, you can call it a flat plane. The simple fact that you've now referenced a horizontal plane, has described it all. You don't need to say flat because you've already described it as a horizontal plane, which is flat. The choice of words, you don't have to use every single descriptor, do you? You've given enough to make the vernacular you're using or a surveyor's using imply the same thing, particularly when we're talking about elevation, because that elevation is a reference to one specific horizontal plane, that being sea level, that being actual real world, not the imaginary elevation flat planes you create from that reference point. But in this point, the surveying and reality meet at sea level.
Yeah, but when we're referencing mean sea level, then we must also, and this is why when I speak about mean sea level, I don't just call it a flat plane. I have to reference what it is, which is a horizontal plane, because I must then I must reference the orientation.
Oh, no,
I'm just trying to be specific.
just let me go over because I got his objection the first time, and I still agree with it, and that hence there wasn't a disagreement when we were challenging Bev on this, right, Brian? I don't disagree with you. There is an element missing if you just say flat, because you can describe it in different orientations. Therefore, horizontal plane is far more accurate. Now, given the genre we're in and the fact that we are literally attempting to describe Earth, I don't see flat as an unreasonable description because it's a perfectly accurate description as you went through with Elderbear. But when you come to measurement, it doesn't sit well with you if you're going to launch into what is going to be a geometric actual measurement and a claim that flat doesn't quite work with. Horizontal plane works perfectly sufficiently when you're into a very specific argument about how Earth is measured. Is that correct, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking colloquially, sorry, I can't say the word today.
I know what you mean, colloquially, yes.
Yeah, colloquially. When you're talking colloquially, and you say hashtag measure flat, that's fine, because it's a hashtag, it's a phrase, it's a buzz phrase. You know what I mean? It's like straight poetry. Let's just say, right? Whatever you want to call it. The whole point is that it's something that people that it's easily digestible, right? But when you want to deal with the actual specifics, then I would have to switch to what they're doing and specifically what they're doing in each discipline. Flat is a broad strokes term, if you understand what I mean.
No, I get you. What you're saying is good because it means that I know that there will come a point in the conversation where you have to be hyper specific, like Huey's always saying. And if you're not, you'll fail on your ass.
Okay, what is the distinction between horizontal and flat so that we can know when to be hyper specific? Please.
It has to do with the difference between descriptions and explanations. I just learned this the other day, right?
Chocolate.
Yeah.
Well,
it depends on whether you're talking about orientation, right?
Context.
You're talking about Earth.
Context.
You're talking about orientation and stuff like that.
Hit him with the wall, Chocolate. What's up, Chocolate?
The thing about it is that horizontal is described as flat, but so is Adam's flat screen TV that's on his wall, and isn't exactly horizontal or vertical. So flat doesn't give an orientation.
Right. Yeah, it does when you're talking about orientation.
But the word flat doesn't give an orientation.
Let's just say that. Hold on. Let's just say that, John. It does when you're talking about orientation. What? Carry on.
Right. You can use flat as a description for the surface of the flat screen TV. But when you're talking in relation of orientation, when you're dealing with Earth, flat has a very specific meaning because your flat screen TV is not laying flat. You have it vertical. You can see it.
Yeah, but vertical can be described as flat as well.
Hope you're
That's
listening.
the point.
Huey.
Yes.
This is the point, John.
Oh yeah. I just sat down. I can't get a word in. I summarized it in the beginning, but we've been going for 45 minutes over overly pedantic horse shit. And yes, I did hear Chocolate, and I'm just sitting here rolling my fucking eyes. Is that good? You got it?
Hitting with the wall.
John,
keep rolling them. Keep rolling them.
John, if you're going to reference, yeah. So I don't know what your qualm is now.
I'll tell you the quote.
I mean, I thought it was pretty clear.
The only time we need to be specific is when we're dealing with contrarian retards. Yeah, it's quite apparent if my flat screen TV that I'm talking about the nature of the surface, it being flat, if I've got it flat on the wall, what it means. It's only if you disassociate yourself from reality and the conversation that you can create confusion with these issues. And if you do create confusion in a debate with these issues, then you have to question the person's motivation. If you're not dealing with the topic at hand anymore, you're just fapping around, creating confusion on the meaning of something that really doesn't need clarity. Yeah?
No, I'd agree, Adam, that I'd agree that yes, it's
hit him with the wall, QE.
Why do you keep doing that?
Please
stop doing that, please.
I'm sorry,
Adam, yes.
I can't hear. It's because I'm probably the only person that can't hear Brian. I'm sorry.
Feel bad for
If
telling you
me
off
and
now.
you are
Alex,
having
'cause you
this
can't hear Brian.
conversation, Brian, we don't need to worry. We say flat, or because we are listening to the rest of the sentence, we can objectively understand the point the other person's making. Now, if I want to distract from that point, I could then query the reference of the term flat. But it would be, I'm liking this, disingenuous of me if I was actually trying to follow the conversation. And trying to disrupt the conversation, it's a great thing to do, isn't it? Kind of throw this spanner in. And I think this is where QE's frustration is.
Yeah, but I understand QB's frustration, but QB didn't need to tell me that. I already was fully aware of that. But if we are going to be dealing, and we are, and will very likely be dealing in the future with people who are being overly pedantic, then we've got to be pedantic to combat that when we need to be. We need to be specific when we need to be.
Only when you're dealing with people that got mesmerized.
Yeah, but even if I'm speaking to a surveyor who isn't trying to be overly pedantic, even if I'm dealing with a surveyor, I'm more likely to. I'm not more likely. I will be using the term. I will be referencing the orientation. So we'll be referencing horizontal plane as opposed to saying flat. You know, things like that. It's just for the when you're dealing with it. I understand it's pedantic and it's annoying and it's boring, but I'm sorry, but that is what we have to deal with at present. I'm sure we will in the future.
There was to move the conversation on then, there was a point I heard earlier, somebody saying about Newton. If somebody brings that, I was thinking I'd like to raise the point that Newton is valid in mechanics still, but no longer valid in physics. It's a point of agreement. I'd like to, when they start with this, just to get that on the table. Give them an agreement ladder. Yeah, because this is what they'll throw at you. Yeah, but we're still using it. Yeah, you do. Yeah, but that is in the field of mechanics. And the point of acceptance of light and recognition is that mechanics is not physics.
When you say mechanics, are you talking about the movement of a heavy object, creating momentum, that kind of thing?
I'm talking about the discipline that Newton made, which is mechanics. Right now, it was pre-assumed that was also physics. Yeah, before he was superseded. It was also supposed to describe reality. Doesn't. It's still true in mechanics still, but it is no longer recognized as physics. And I think that's it's not just, it's why. It's why they can get away with it still. So give them the recognition of mechanics, but make the distinguishment that it is not a description of reality anymore.
Well, the problem is that, as QE said, that his laws of motion were not correct at the small scale.
Exactly. So it's not physics anymore. Right. But that doesn't mean the mechanical stuff isn't true. But it sits in the category of mechanics. So don't cite Newton for physics for me then. But if you want to go on about mechanics, fine. But what's that got to do with that?
I think that guy that Whitsitt was debating was saying it's still used for, Newton is still used for predictions.
Yeah, for mechanics, lovely, fantastic. What's that got to do with physics? Nothing. Right. So let's forget about Newton then, unless we're going to do a mechanics debate.
Yeah, well, I mean, as an engineer, you might be You might be having to address what weight. Obviously, you're going to have to. It depends if you're a structural engineer, for instance.
Yeah, in mechanics,
you're going to be dealing,
not physics.
Yeah, you're going to be exactly.
Like weight distribution, all that.
Yeah, load bearing stuff, all that.
When you say mechanics, do you mean naturally aspirated internal combustion engines? Because you're going to need a container for that.
No
Yeah.
mechanics.
But it's all man-made devices. It's like, oh, how are you going to rearrange this knowledge of physics with the materials in order to kind of railroad a certain type of setup and set of effects? That's called engineering. If it happen naturally and you bump into that, then it might be physics. But you're not going to bump into a running combustion engine in the middle of nature that just appeared out of nothing.
Yeah, that's engineering in technology. So that next point, isn't it?
What is the is question?
But see, this is the problem. We have people who are going to university to learn how to be an engineer, and there's different types of engineering, right? So obviously, there's different types of engineering. So obviously, they'll be learning different types of engineering, but they're being given the impression that this thing, gravity, exists, and it exists in X form, right? Which would be force of attraction stuff, right? And they're going to be told that this is Newtonian and blah, blah, blah. And then someone else has been taught when they went to astrophysics that no, it's general relativity. It's not. There's no force of attraction for it. There's no force. Gravity is not a force. Whereas the problem is that anyone is being taught about it. The problem is that anyone is being taught about gravity. That's the problem. That gravity is being taught at all because it doesn't exist. That's the main problem, and that's why we have all this confusion.
Well, no, the problem is that they've been told that it's Newtonian. So, like I've been saying for 8 years now, bring in an engineer and let's see his Newtonian mechanics in any aspect of their work. I want to see it. I mean, right in front of my face. I want a complete description, and I want to see Newtonian mechanics applied. Simple.
Well, I still remember, I don't know him anymore, an architect that was very solid about, we do use Newtonian mechanics.
Yeah, I know.
Architects don't really use the materials of gas in their engineering process.
I debunked your dumb ass back then when you didn't bring that up. I remember it. And I'm still asking. Engineers.
You're not debunking anything.
Engineers, well, there's nothing to debunk yet. So, engineers, let's see it. Build me a bread box. I want to see Newtonian mechanics in there. Simple, right? Joe.
I have to agree. As when I first came into this arena back in 2015, for the first couple of years, first 2 years, all I remember is people claiming that engineering used Newtonian, what they were calling at the time Newtonian gravity, right? And even me as a total layperson at the time for the first 2 years, not once could they provide anything that supported it. Not once did anyone provide anything.
Bro, have they provided anything for any of their claims at any time ever?
No.
A little vague there. You want to get specific? Hit them with the volume, Chocolate.
Nah. I was purposely vague with that.
Is that unfair for me to ask them to show since they're making these claims? I don't think so. Show. Simple. Let's see it.
They can't, John. They don't use Newtonian mechanics. That's absurd.
I know they don't. That's why I'm asking.
And if they would definitely not get themselves involved in this arena about that, right? because they know the Earth is flat. Let me just be straightforward with that. That guy, that architect, is one of the guys that told me that, even, right?
So
way back.
That's the problem.
What about Brian Mullen?
So that's the problem. He just told you.
Right.
And just like Brian said.
Guess what? There was no internet like this yet, right?
Yeah, I gotcha.
It was still very obscure. I mean, I thank him for doing that.
So I'm wrong then, Huey, is what you're telling me. Okay, so
I don't know.
It's fine. Let me revise my statement then. It's not even applicable in engineering and technology or everyday observations. It's only applicable in the mathematical field of classical mechanics.
Right now, I would make a stand on that point, but until I'm shown, I could be wrong. I'm not, but until I'm shown, there's no claim. There's nothing here. Substanceless.
Yeah.
Fair.
So it's only in theory that it exists then.
In theory, no, not a scientific theory. That's for sure.
No, in mathematical theory. Sorry.
What's a mathematical theory?
As in, this is how you do classical mechanics in pure maths. That's its only existence. But that you can't take that and apply it or to reality, and that's what you're asking for. That. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a nice refinement on what I was saying.
I don't think you'd be wrong to say in mechanics, but I would like to see them. It's definitely not physics. We already know that. That's completely off the table.
Well, that was the point. Give them that for that statement that this is why it's no longer in the realm of physics.
Oh, it was never in physics to begin with. So that's off the table. Now we can grant them that maybe it's mechanics, but let's say it first.
Yeah. Okay.
Then I'll grant it.
It's the big G, right? Why do you think that it's there, right? With the Freemasons, with the compass and the ruler and everything? Like compass.
You had the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? Right? I mean, it's coming from engineering. It's coming from those people that traditionally had that very specific role in society. Masons, building, art. You have to be an architect. You have to know these things. They used it. And they probably invented gravity as a story.
Oh, you're saying they use gravity. Newtonian gravity.
They invented gravity. Don't put words in my mouth. They invented
I'm asking you, do they use, these engineers, do they use Newtonian gravity in constructing buildings and bridges?
Well, you're probably going to say, nah, whatever, because
I'm not saying anything. I just asked you.
Yeah, but you do that every time. You have done that every time you actually ask me that question and I try to answer it. You do that every time. So I'm wondering, am I going to actually answer that question this time?
Well, it's a closed-ended question.
Fooled again, because you don't ask
closed-ended question.
You get the answer. You just steamrolls me when I do.
It's a closed-ended question. Yes or no?
Yeah.
There you go. Show.
No.
No.
Yeah. Like that's supposed to prove.
You know what a baseless assertion fallacy is?
Yeah, well, you know what? Just being annoyingly skeptic for no damn reason and saying, I haven't seen it, so it doesn't exist, is too. Yeah, you know. I remember what I've been told, what I've been shown. Like even the computer program from the 90s with the shitty graphics that was doing that. Force distribution in building pieces that they used to calculate the force distribution, which presupposed Newtonian gravity. I don't know what program it is. I don't think there's even a computer out there that even runs that anymore. No. I don't care enough to go on an adventure just to prove something to you, John. And I don't think anybody else is too.
Then don't make the claim then. Then don't make the claim then. Follow? Arwin?
I'm just relaying what I've experienced in the past.
Yeah, but you're opposing Arwin but then saying, but I can't back up my opposition. I disagree with you, but I can't substantiate it. So John's saying then just don't disagree. You don't need to say anything. Anecdotes about somebody from your past doesn't help conversation.
Not evidence. Yeah.
It just creates this loggerhead.
Nobody's stepping forward here right now, so then it doesn't exist. Yes, of course.
No, that would be an argument from silence.
Mandela effect memory. It didn't actually happen because nobody has stepped forward and done it now.
Same
to you,
John just
to your
pointed that out.
satisfaction.
Argument from silence.
But
John
is
just pointed
force
it out.
distribution strictly Newtonian mechanics, first of all?
Hello?
Why wouldn't that being asked a question? It's just a protracted silence at the end of it. We'll either get an answer or I'll round out.
I don't know. I don't even know if there was a question there. You know, I've told what I've told. It happened when I was 20. Yeah, that's 23 years ago. Kind of a vague period for me when I wasn't that interested in physics at all, actually. Sort of on the surface. More interested in space stories. So it was all kind of new to me. I just remember, that architect guy is actually somebody that kind of tried to snap out of my space dream nonsense. And while he was doing it, I got a bit interested, and he showed me this program on his computer that calculated the forces on the parts of a building. And he said this uses Newtonian mechanics. He didn't claim it was physics.
Okay.
He just said this is what we use.
Is force distribution strictly Newtonian mechanics, or is he just wrong?
Oh, he's not the one that designed that computer program. So.
Okay. I'm going to round out on that note. Anybody got a last point to make? With that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!